is one of the most valuable videos you'll ever see on YouTube. It might actually change your life. This is the entire playbook on how to get your dream body that I share with all of my clients. You will have the step-by-step, the framework, the binge eating framework, everything you need to get the transformation that you want and keep it for life without starving yourself, spending hours doing cardio, and obviously without binging anymore. So I highly suggest you take notes, set your phone on D&D, close all of your tabs. You're gonna want to listen to this and listen to it closely. So without further ado, let's get into it. I hope that you are ready because there is a lot going on. This is your dream body ultimate playbook. I did not hold back. Everything you need is right in there. If you do everything, there is no way you will not get your dream body. Like, success is inevitable if you do that. So use this playbook to lose the weight, stop binge eating, and building the body that you want without extreme restriction and without gaining the weight back. You will never have to start over if you do that. So this might actually be one of the most helpful, if not the most helpful resource that you will ever get. And this is going to be in the description down below. Of course, I'm sharing everything and you'll have access to it. I just wanted to walk you through it because it might be a little bit much. And there is a few numbers and a few stuff to enter and do on your own. So I wanted to, walk you through it. But this is going to be for you if you're tired of starting over, stuck in a binge restrict cycle, therefore gaining the weight back, or you feel like you'll never reach your body goals without, one, starving yourself, or two, spending hours doing cardio. So I'm going to walk you through everything you need to get in shape, stay consistent, stop binge eating for good, without giving up on your favorite food, and without spending hours in the gym. So let's go. Obviously, you'll have, for those of you who, want to add, I need someone to tell me. I'm way too busy to have to figure it out on my own. I just need someone to give me the plan and then keep me accountable. You will have the link to see how I can help you because I've done the work for myself, first of all, which is huge because you can have someone who hasn't been overweight and who hasn't binged or have any type of eating disorder. That is not going to be the same as someone who's gone through it. Anyways, let's move on. A couple client wins because I wanted to show you real results from real women who have been able to gain the control back around food and gain the control over their body and their life and their mind, therefore seeing amazing transformations regardless of their age, their level of activity, their history of diet, and level of fitness and everything. Medication and level of busyness, I guess, because we've got solo mom, we've got entrepreneur, people moving countries, people like women preparing their wedding. There is a lot. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that it works for literally everyone. There is no way it's going to work for everyone but you. You're not that special. I'm sorry to say that you are, but you're not that special that this strategy isn't going to work just for you while it works for everyone else. As I said, I've been there. Let's get into it. So the first step is figuring out your ideal weight, because the reason why you've never been happy with your weight is because you're not taking into account that this is not just a random number that, well, I kind of used to be that way when I was like 16, or I used to be that way before and I was happy with it. And then you get back to it and you're like, no, actually, that's not it. I'm not happy. The reason why you're never satisfied is because you're not taking into account body composition. There is a mix. Your body is basically fat and lean mass. And if you figure out both, the composition you want for your body for both, then you end up with a weight, then you end up with like an ideal weight. First, I'll insert the video in there. So you have the full thing, but in the Notion thing. So first you want to figure out your ideal. Can I zoom? No, I'm not gonna. The quality is not gonna be good. Anyway, first you figure out your ideal body fat percentage. So you've got very, very, very lean, which isn't healthy, and then you've got more like fitness from 19 something to 25%. That's going to be a bit more like fitness related and just like being fit. And obviously the leaner, the closer you are going to be to having abs. But a good note here is that your genetics are going to be heavily in the scale here, weigh heavily in the scale as to whether or not you're going to have visible abs at a higher or lower body fat percentage. Hopefully that makes sense. But someone might be at 20% body, might be exaggerating here. I'm gonna exaggerate to just so you get the point. Someone might be at like 20% body fat and have very visible abs, while someone else might be at that and have no abs visible. That's very genetic, okay? So just so you know, and you don't want to go too low because that's not sustainable, but you want to figure out like a number, let's say 19. That's my number because I want to be like in between that because I can't make choices. And so, I like doing anyways. Then you want to figure out your ideal fat-free mass. So basically everything but um fat, but especially in that sense, it's like the amount of muscle you want because, for example, supermodel, zero muscle, very skinny fat. And then, the closer you get to 19, the more bodybuilding, muscular you get. So, this is average. This is like you don't have necessarily a lot of muscles. And then you've got athletic, obviously. And yeah, just again, you figure out a number, let's say 17. Right. I did a lot of formulas and it was a bit of a headache for a hot seconds, but I figured out how to have one calculator, whether you are in kilos or whether you speak in pounds. You just have to make sure that you fill it out the way I did. That way it's going to work, obviously. So I'm 175 centimeters or 5'9". So this is how you want to enter it. As I said, target, thing, put it there, the target body fat percentage 19, and then it's going to give you an ideal fat-free mass. This is not your ideal weight yet, okay? We actually have to add the body fat after. So first I calculate based on your height and your ideal, amount of muscle you want, your fat-free mass, and then it's going to take the ideal body fat and it's going to give you a number. And for example, for me, 64.3 seemed to be, my target weight. And then and the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to get to that and then I'll see if I'm at the right body fat percentage and the right, muscle mass. If I assume I will be close to it, and the thing that I will do is I'll just stay there and focus on body recomp at that point. So I won't lose that much weight, but I'll do body recomp if I end up there and I'm not fully, reaching that yet, which might happen because I know right now I'm a bit offended, but I'm like closer to 16.2. So I'm slightly in between there, a little bit offended, but never mind. So yeah, point being, I might, try to build some muscle. For now, I'm just going to get there, see what it looks like, and then, we'll do body recomp if I have to. And then you type in your ideal weight. This is the weight that you will be happy at, especially if you manage to actually reach your target, fat-free mass and body fat percentage. So we have that. That is done. Step 1 is done. Step 2. Figuring out your current body metrics. I know that a lot of you are like, I really don't want to do that because I'm a little bit scared to get on the scale. I know, but if you can't track it, you will not be able to change it. And one big reason as to why I was gaining the weight was simply because I was not looking at the weight. I was scared to go on the scale because I was like, I'm fairly sure that it's going to be higher than expected. And when I did, oh boy, was it higher than expected. Anyways, you need your height and weight. And then your waist, hips, and neck, I can't say that word, but you get it. So again, I did a little thing so you can do, it's going to work for kilos, it's going to work in pounds. The only thing, and as you see, so I've basically, well, it's not full accurate now, I can go to, anyways, yeah, it's going to be slightly different. Yeah, obviously, I don't have that. I'm going to keep it to what I said because otherwise it's going to fuck it up and we don't want that. Okay, so you can see a slight difference. It's kind of normal from from kilos to pounds because, it doesn't get lost in translation, but in terms of the formula, you've got like round, like it's sort of rounded, I guess. And there is a slight difference here, but it's not that big. So, don't worry about it. And anyways, just delete like the unit you don't need and it will be fine. As you can see, I'm actually 16.1, which yes, I'm a bit offended. Let me take a sip for a second. This is my second coffee of the day. I didn't sleep very well, but that's also why I'm a bit hyper. Okay, so you figure out where you are at now because you need to figure out your body fat percentage, your current body fat percentage, and your fat-free mass. Again, body fat percentage. Why did I close it? Can someone tell me? Okay, body fat percentage, ideal fat-free mass. So therefore, you can sort of see where you're at, okay? So yeah, 32 again. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm on my way. It's fine. I lost like 40. I lost like 5% already. over the past 7 to 8 weeks. I've been on a cup, so we're doing great progress. I'm halfway through. I'm fairly sure that I will get to my goal. Well, no, I know I will get to my goal, but I know I will get to my first milestone by the deadline I have. Anyways, so first you want to know that, okay? And you can actually, if you want to type it like how, you don't have to, but if you want to type it below, like this is my body fat and this is like my fat free mass, you can. You don't have to. Then we figure out your TDEE, so how much calories your body spends in a day. Yeah. And again, this formula, I'm not even going to try. Okay, catch MacArdle. This is one of the most accurate formula because it does take body fat percentage into consideration. And, since fat basically doesn't burn that much, how to say, calories versus muscle, so it taking into consideration body fat, it will be it will just be more accurate than any other calculator that will not necessarily take that into account. Therefore, if you have a different body composition from someone but you are the same weight, you might not have the same BMR, you might not have the same expenditure in terms of calories just because you don't have the same muscle mass. So that's why I took this one. And as you can see, I'm very active. I work out quite a lot because I genuinely love that. So my BMR is, I will never, first of all, I will never eat below that number in terms of daily calories. This will never happen. I will never eat below the BMR because this is what fucks you up. This is what lowers your metabolism. This is like binge restrict. Never eat below your BMR. Second is, that's the number that roughly, your body is not really a machine in the sense that it might be a little bit more some days, it might be a little bit less depending on your activity. It's fine. We just want a rough number. And actually, I wanted to show you something. So that's the starting weight. You can see my TDE is quite high, and that's my current weight. So I've lost I can't remember, I guess 200-ish. And that is why, as you go on your fitness journey, on your fat loss journey, you will have to recalculate that every month, just because, especially if you lose quite quickly, like I have, just because your body is obviously, as you are less heavy, it's less difficult to lose. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. It's less difficult to move you around, therefore it will burn less calories if you are lighter. It is normal, nothing to worry about, that is normal. But this is to be taken into consideration when you're trying to lose weight, because at some point, if you stagnate, if you haven't changed anything by either eating a bit less or moving a bit more as you go along your journey, and I've chosen moving more, by the way, just because I'm not eating less, I'm really happy with the current amount. And I can't remember what I was saying. Sorry, that's the coffee. I'm a bit hyper. But basically, yeah, if you haven't lost weight and you've been tracking and it's accurate, sometimes it's just because your TDEE has gone down. You need to recalculate. Okay, so estimated TDEE, you write it down here. Then step 3, we figure out how fast you want to get there. Now, the thing is, if you don't really have a deadline, I really recommend that you take your TDEE and you do minus 15%. And it's going to give you it's gonna basically be a very not chill. It's not, you're not gonna lose really, really fast, but you ensure that it's fat. You're gonna have enough food that you will have, enough energy to hit PRs in your workouts, hit specific weight in terms of weightlifting or run and so on. You will have enough energy. Just 15% is really reasonable. It's just a bit slower. I have a deadline, therefore I had to create that little thing because I know, what, I think I can actually challenge myself a little, and I can. It's been really easy. I don't think I've ever lost weight this easily, despite the yo-yo dieting prior. But anyways, so use this, calculator to see how long it's going to take you. We'll need that to figure out your calorie deficit to reach your ideal weight. So I said 67. I know that this is not the ideal weight that I have here, but that's just because I've, based on the deadline that I have, I know that this is 67. I can actually, let's see. Let's say we are at, hold on, 64.3. I'm going to do it with you. Where am I? Here. 64.3, and I'm actually at 72.1 today. And I want to lose, in between pace. It is recommended. Again, you will not find anything faster than that in this Notion dashboard, at least, just because it is recommended to try to lose 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. And anything above that is really too quickly. That's why, even though I'm saying I'm losing weight quickly, which I am, it's still like in the reasonable range. So, I can't choose between 1 and 0.5, so we're going to do middle. The start date, what's the date today? 26. And see, look at it go. I would technically reach my ideal weight if I wasn't stopping in between, which I'm going to be, and it's going to I'm going to stop in end of July because I'm going to the US, and I just have that deadline for the US. And so yeah, it's going to do the calculation on its own, tell you roughly if you keep on following this pace, you will get there like by the 1st of September, which is so cool. Okay, so again, you can write, the target weight by the specific deadline, and you can play with it. Like, you can see if I try to go faster, 11th of August. No, I'm not doing that. There we go. That's perfect. And then we figure out, I hope everything makes sense, just because it makes so much sense in my head. But if you have any question, drop them below, or, message me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help you out with that. I hope it's recording. It should be, but I'm just wondering, like, have I had that much energy for like nothing? Okay. And then we figure out your calorie deficit based on your weight loss goal, chosen pace. And this following calculator will tell you exactly, like roughly at least, how much calories you should eat. So again, we're going to do it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to do 74.3, I think it was. Yep. Maintenance. My maintenance is here, 2463. So it's gone down a little bit. Weeks to goals. Again, you put this one right there. Calorie deficit, and that's the amount of food that I should eat. That's actually, yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And yeah, you plus, again, you choose the unit because it will basically calculate like pounds versus like kilos. It will be a bit of a different thing, but it will show you like, don't worry, I got you. And yeah, that way you have, like, that's the first step. You figure out your ideal weight, you figure out where you're at, you figure out, your TDEE, how fast you want to get there, and then your calories, and you're all set. And as you go, like, set a reminder on your phone every like month to recalculate everything and just figure out, okay, just to make sure that you're still within the deficit and you're still, in the right deficit to get to the weight by the deadline. Now let's play a little bit. If I was doing 1%, it would take me 11 weeks. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. So if I was doing, okay, that's not too bad. I was expecting it to be way worse. But I mean, obviously I kept it at a reasonable pace anyway. So yeah, you see, but I mean, I'm an in-between girl. So, and what if I was, we're going to ignore that. What if I was 22 weeks? See, that's so many calories. I mean, it's in a long time. We don't have that time. 0.75, 14. That's gonna be solid. Right, now we all have the core training. Like, let's move on to the core trainings. In order to achieve lasting results, you need to master 3 areas: your nutrition, your exercise, your consistency. Those 3 equals inevitable success. If you have the nutrition down, that's 80% of the job. Then you've got your exercise to maintain your body mass. That's like the 20, and then you're just consistent with that. And there is no way you won't be successful if you follow it. So we'll watch, I don't know what I said, 3, we've got at least 4 here. It will give you a straightforward guidance. This is taken from my course. This is taken from the course that my client have. So yeah. First, we are going to talk about adjusting your intake. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a 15% calorie deficit, which is still what I believe in. I'm just challenging myself. I just want to get a little faster. But if you didn't have the deadline, I would say, like, go for 15%, be a bit more chill. I'm logged in, guys. That's why I can allow myself. I'm logged in. I'm at home. I don't see, like, I have mom's food a few times per week. And then the rest of the time, I make my own food and I don't go out that much. And that's just a choice. So let's get into this video. Right. So this chapter should be a little bit more fun than the previous one, but we had to go over it. So today, let's talk about adjusting your calories intake to your goals. This lesson is pretty much an intro to macro/calorie tracking. I know that some of you may be completely like not doing that, but that's my method, works for me. So yeah, the two websites that you would need are the NASM body weight calculator, but to be fair, any calorie calculator online should kind of do the job. It's just the one that I found that I liked the most. And MyFitnessPal, or again, any type of calorie counting app, but you will find them linked in Model 12 resources. Right, so let's start with figuring out your maintenance. As you know, throughout the day, your body spends energy that is expressed in calories. So this amount can be calculated based on your height, weight, age, and daily activity. The first step is therefore to just do the math and calculate how much energy your body spends every day, which is what we call your total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE for short. There are different methods to calculate it, but I'm not going to make you do that after what we just went through. So let's just go right to the NASM bodyweight calculator to get this number, and that number is basically your maintenance. I don't like the deficit, and that's why we're not using it. I feel like it's not, I don't like the deficit. I don't like it. So this number is basically your maintenance, and if you eat roughly this number of calories every single day for a long time, you'll just maintain your weight. Right, let's talk old versus new body. I really want you to play a little bit on that website and check what your maintenance would look like at a heavier weight, a lighter weight, like body weight, I mean, your targeted weight, working out multiple times a week, not working out at all, at your current age, also 20 years from now, because as you get older, it's normal for your metabolism to go lower. But I just want you to get an idea of what your maintenance could look like for the different versions of you. I also want you to do this to realize that the biggest struggle when it came to yo-yo dieting before was understanding why you gained the weight back. Since your maintenance had changed from a heavier weight to a lower weight, you going back to your old lifestyle where you ate more calories just to maintain that heavier body would only lead to you gaining the weight back again, because you were eating for your old body. So you have to be aware of the maintenance for your new body, the body at your dream weight, at your targeted weight. So yeah, that's basically why I want you to play a little bit and figure things out with that website. And that way you will be able to learn how to maintain it, and it's also going to be really useful once we're going to talk about the reverse diet in a minute. So let's talk about the process now. If you want to lose weight, you obviously want to be in a deficit. You want to create a 10 to 15% deficit, like not more, because again, if you, like we talked about in the previous chapter, if you don't eat enough, your body will eat your muscles, and that would mean skinny fat instead of lean and toned. So we want enough like calories throughout the day. So that's the deficit I saw the best result with. This picture is actually from November 2023. This is from when I started my cup. So pretty good, I would say. So you can do 15% of deficit most day, and then you have that 5% more food on the days you're hungrier or on special occasions, which is what I do, for example. On the days that I travel, I just traveled recently. I would allow, like I'm usually at 1800 calories per day, 1850. And on these days, I was up to like 20 maybe. So it was not that big of a deal for me. It's just like I want the food. So I'm on holiday. Well, it was not really a holiday. It was kind of a school trip, business trip, I would say. Let's call it a business trip for my exams. So it was not really vacation. I guess it would be different than a vacation. Christmas time, I'm definitely not counting 24th and 25th. This is not happening. So it's for you to just feel what you like, just yeah, whatever you feel like doing, basically. But on most, like my strategy would be to count 15% deficit on most days, and then allow for the 5% more food on the days that you're a bit hungrier. Now, let's talk about reverse dieting. Once you've reached the end of the fat loss phase, you want to start your body recomp, such reverse dieting. What body recomposition means is basically when you keep on losing fat but build muscle, and since you're eating a bit more, you're allowing your body to, like, it's going to happen in the fat loss phase as well, but it mostly, at least for my body, it mostly happened in the like reverse diet phase. So yeah, that's when you'll keep on losing weight a little bit, but not as much. So for me, I lost 25 pounds in the fat loss phase, and then an additional 10 in the body recomp phase. So yeah, basically it means that you're still losing fat, but gaining a bit of muscle, just getting a bit more definition, if you will. So this means that in this phase, we're slowly going to increase your daily calories in order to get to the maintenance of your new body that you calculated earlier, remember? But since it won't be all in one go, because if you do, you may gain some weight back. That would create the weight gain in the yo-yo dieting. We want to really start like slowly. And we're still going, as I said, to lose a bit more fat, build muscle if you need enough protein and lift heavy at the gym. And also if you're a beginner, that's kind of like beginner's luck, but that's what we call body recomposition. So what you want to do again is calculate your new maintenance for your new body, for your new weight, for your current weight. And then you can plan your reverse diet to get to that number. So wherever you are now, you just want to add 50 to 100 calories to what you currently eat and maintain that for a couple of weeks, even 3. The goal is just to teach your body to stabilize itself at that new weight. So you may gain a little bit at first because you're going to be a bit like eating a bit more, but that's mostly water retention, salt retention, and the fact that you've been eating more food after being in the deficit for so long. So it's nothing to worry about. The goal is to let it go back down. So it's going to take a while. It may take a few weeks, as I said. But once you get back down to that dream weight, I would say you want to once it's been stabilized at that weight, you can add another 50, 100 calories and do it all over again. So it goes in stages up to the maintenance of your new body. Note that since you may actually still lose weight, so as I said, I lost 10 pounds in that phase the first time I did that, you may need to readjust your target maintenance. So yeah, it's basically up to whatever your body, like, it's what your body does, you know. That's something I will coach you through. So we will run the numbers together and figure all of this out. It's just for you if you want to start again with this strategy, which I'm doing. Like I did it once and I'm doing it again just to prove my point. And because why not? I would actually like being a bit more defined, you know. And I've been building like a fair amount of muscles over the past years at the gym. So I kind of want to see them now, you know. Now let's talk a bit about your macros, because on your weight loss journey and even for your health journey, the amount of proteins, fat, and carbs that you eat kind of matters, especially proteins and fat. The many guidelines out there, you know, from cutting all the fat to cutting all the carbs to 33 splits. But I'm going to share with you what I do and what the research says works the best basically and is great for optimal health. First of all, is protein. You want 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. That's about 100 grams. Like that's not that much. You know, it's easily attainable if you're aware of that. The second thing to figure out is the amount of fat. And I like to target about 30% of your daily calories intakes, or like 1 gram per kilo of body weight. Again, that's not huge. That's about 60 to 70. For me now, it's about like 65. So, you know, it's not huge. So again, you can enter these numbers in your tracking app. I highly recommend MyFitnessPal. It's the best I've used. And then the rest of your daily intake is basically going to be carbs. You want to do it like in that order. First proteins, then you calculate the fat amount, and then the rest is going to be carbs. And yeah, it's in that order of importance. There is absolutely no need to overwhelm yourself to get the perfect number each time. If someday you're slightly lower on your protein, it will not be the end of the world. If most day you reach your target, for example, on most day, between 110 and 120. And yesterday I was at 90. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. You know, it's just a most day type of thing. It's most days. It's fine. So quick note, that's why I keep saying that there's no need to completely start over when it comes to your current diet. And I mean diet here as everything you eat over the course of like a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years. But all you need to do, I would start with tracking what you eat for a few days and then see what needs to be done. See maybe how you can lower the calories to your target. So what you are willing to take away from your diet, maybe or replace if you're eating a bit too much calories, and then where can you add some proteins and then maybe some fibers, but you know, it's really a progressive approach. But the order of importance when it comes to fat loss, tracking for fat loss, is deficit, protein, fat, fibers, and then everything else. I try to keep my sugar intake low, but that's another battle. And if I'm in deficit, I don't really care. I'm going to eat what I want. If I feel like having breakfast for dinner because it's my comfort food and I love it, I'm going to have breakfast for dinner because oatmeal is life. But yeah, the point is just like build off of what you're already eating instead of trying to completely like start over when it comes to your diet. Right, now let's talk about building one gym session. Obviously, you first want to, yes, you'll have the list so you can pick the exercises, but you will want to figure out first, do you want to do 2, 3 full bodies per week, or do you want to do upper, lower? Those are the only two split that I recommend. If you are going to be going for cardio as well, I just remember that I have something to do for a client. I need to change her workout. We talked about it yesterday. Okay, I'll do that right after. Anyways, yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, you choose 2 to 3 full body sessions, upper to lower. But if you are doing, I actually recommend 2 to 3 full body and then doing cardio, just because that way you have enough, like at least 2 rest days. So it would be like 2 to 3 full body sessions, 2 to 3 cardio sessions. You work out 5 times per week for like 45 minutes max, and then 2 rest days. On those rest days, you can do whatever you want. You can do nothing. That is absolutely fine. Let's get into this one. Welcome to this new chapter. I was really excited about this one because I find it that as a personal trainer, that's the most fun that I get. So let's talk about building your own gym session. Yeah, it's basically, I'm teaching you to become your own personal trainer. Technically, you can just follow the plan that I wrote you and build off of that. But let's say that you want to start from scratch. Here is how you would build your own workout plan, basically. So a few terms to know. Compound exercises are exercises that work more than one muscle or even work an entire muscle group. So for example, we've got like squats, which are great for like legs and like multiple muscles for the legs, barbell row for the upper body. So they're more efficient, especially at the beginning of a workout. That's when you want to place them to exhaust the muscle and really train that, like these muscles. Then you've got isolated exercises, which target generally one muscle. So you've got the bicep curl, which biceps, hip abductions. There are plenty of those. You've got like leg extensions and leg curls, all of that. They're great at the end of a workout to target the muscles that maybe weren't involved or were not as involved in the previous exercises. Then you've got free weight exercise, which tend to be more efficient and harder on the muscles. So I recommend starting like on these exercises, like any session. However, since they don't have any guidance for the proper form, be very careful as it can result in an injury. But I feel like they're great tools. Like I always start with free weights and then I go on to the machine, which tends to be more for isolated exercises. So a better fit for the end. I mean, not necessarily. You've got the leg press, lat pull down, like the row and everything. That's not necessarily for isolated exercises, isolating muscle. It's kind of compound for some machines. But I like to do the machine at the end because I feel like this is like when you're kind of tired and it's easier to increase the weight on it, and you've got like that guidance because it's a machine, the cable and everything. So the risk of injury is like lower. But I kind of find them less efficient as well because, well, there is like, this is like the machine does some of the work, if you see what I mean. So how many exercises, how many sessions? We talked about how many sessions already. Based on what you figured out, you either want to do, so full body, I recommend 5 to 8 exercises, split workouts 4 to 8, and then push-pull workouts, I recommend again 4 to 8, but closer to these, like since you're working out that often, I would recommend I'm really white. I would recommend going to the lower end and trying to do less exercises, maybe more sets, but it's up to you. So let's talk about designing one workout. This is when thing gets actually serious, but it gets like, you will get it after a lot of trials and error because you'll see what works, you'll see what doesn't, you'll see what your gym has, you'll see what you like, you'll see what you don't like, you see it's a lot of trial and errors. But the more experience you get, the easier it's going to get as well. So for that, you will need the list of all exercises. I think that's how I ended up naming it. And the training templates, which is basically the worksheet for that. And you also have the muscle work for each exercise document. So all of that, you kind of want to use that and get used to these things. On the first one, you have all the exercises that you could do. Obviously, I didn't write all of them because there's just so many variation you have existing, so you can Google more if you like. And then for the most common exercises, I wrote which I have a table on which muscles I worked for each exercise. It's something I created for myself when I was trying to create my own, and I found that, like, my own workouts when I was a beginner, and I found that it was so efficient, and I could clearly see, like, it made planning it so much faster. Right, so first step is creating your warm up. It can be really tempting to skip that, but you absolutely cannot do that. I hate it, but you gotta do that. So this is just to ease you smoothly into your workout, stretch your muscle, increase your heart rate, your body temperature, reduce the risk of injury. And actually, if you do have a proper warm up in place, you will realize that you are able to lift heavier because your muscles are more ready, and so on and so forth. And it's usually to mimic like what the session will look like. So for example, if the main session is running, I like to walk for a little. And if I'm doing a lot of, if it's a weight training session, I can do some body weight exercises. But I like starting out with abs because I can get a full body with that. And it's like multiple targets at once. So yeah, I do start with a 5 to 10 minute ab workout. Again, you'll find a list of exercises that I do in the worksheet. It's composed of about 5 exercises. Let's see. So I do the plank, then high plank tap shoulder, then mountain climber. Then I do the heel touch, and the last one is, what is it? Oh yeah, alternating vertical leg scissors. So that's what I mostly do. And I do these for like 1 minute for the plank and then 30 seconds for the rest of the exercise. And I rest for 1 minute. And so that's called a set. And then I do it again. And I just do it twice. Sometimes I will add like 1 minute of plank again because why not? But yeah, that's kind of my warm up. After that, I'm like ready to get into my workout. You can also stretch a bit more if you like. You can have a few active stretches. So I would usually pick 3 to 5 body weight exercises. Like you've got some squats, you've got some. I like to do that. Like this is like a basically pectoral kind of stretch, but I like to do that. And lateral lunges, that's what I like to do as well. So I do train for my full body because I mostly do full body workouts. That's the most convenient thing, and that's what I like doing. So yeah, about 20 reps and just one set is fine. And then the resting time is pretty much up to you. I don't usually rest because it's body weight and it's just a warm up. So you can do that, or you can also do 5 to 10 minutes of low intensity cardio, such as walking, rowing, biking, whatever you like. Um, it doesn't have to be too long. Like I feel like 5 minutes for a warm up, like including the abs and the stretches. I said 15, right? Hopefully I said 15 because it's like 10 to 15 minutes for a warm up is good. But yeah, you can pretty much mix things up. Then for the main session, it doesn't matter what type of split you choose. You want to start by having 2 to 4 compound exercises. Again, you will find everything on the list thing that I created for you. And if it's a full body, you want to start with lower and then upper exercises. So you give basically your muscle more rest time. But you don't actually have to rest in between sets. So, for example, like for the last set of the exercise, if let's say you ended up, so you do 3 sets of lunges, so 1, 2, 3. On the last set, since you're moving on to an upper body workout, let's say bench press, you don't necessarily need to rest. So, if you are on a time crunch, that's actually great to do full bodies because you get to that like 1 minute that you gain basically. But I do feel like it's more you can be pretty efficient when you do full bodies as well. So you will see what muscles like in the worksheet are less involved in the compound exercises, and this will give you like a great guideline to help you choose the isolated exercises. Again, you want to pick like 2 to 4. It really depends on your current split, on the time you have, on what you like, on the exercises you've picked. So it really depends. But really try to have as complete a session as possible. So don't forget, like meaning trying to get all the muscles of the area that you've chosen worked out. But you just know that if one muscle wasn't worked enough for your liking, you can always make sure to target it like in the next session. So that's no big deal. But it's nice to have like a balanced session, I would say. You'll also notice that it's faster and requires less exercise to work your lower body muscles. But maybe that it could be because I'm a woman and like that's kind of what we do, isn't it? Right, so this table shows you how many sets, reps, and rests you should have based on your goals. So when you're in the fat loss phase, I will put you in the endurance zone, but it's going to be 12 to 15 reps and then 3 sets and then like 60-second rest because you still want to have that rest, okay? Um, but as you get better, you will lift heavier, and when you lift heavier, I will move you to the hypertrophy zone. I don't think you will move like to the strength and power. That's very specific, and that's something you can do, but not in this program. So it's going to be like 8 to 12 reps, and then maybe 4 sets and 1 to 2 minute rest, closer to 2 minutes actually, because you really actually need that rest, okay? It sounds complicated at first, but there is a lot that goes into the creation of a workout plan. A lot of thinking of it takes a lot, but once you see the templates and everything, I'm sure that it will make more sense. Probably should have added actually like a picture of it here so you could see, but uh, I did what I did. Last, you've got the cool down. It can feel harmless to skip that, but again, if you suddenly stop exercise, it can leave you more sore. It can also cause, oops, uh, blood pooling, which is basically when the blood, that was called to the working muscles because you were working, right? To not leave properly the muscles and go back to the heart. So it can lead to nausea, dizziness, and fainting. Never happened to me, but I have certainly felt poorly after skipping a cool down, after a very intense session or just a session in general, like a strength training one. So yeah, don't skip your cool down. Again, 10 to 15 minutes. It can go up to 20. It doesn't have to be that long. You can start with some aerobic or cardio exercises and gradually decrease the intensity and then finish it off with some static stretches. These are great because you don't need specific equipment, but you do have to stretch to like at the end of a workout. You can't really skip that. It's best to do it like you feel a mild stretch, but you don't want to feel pain. And it will actually be good for like flexibility. So I would hold it for 15 seconds, 20 seconds maybe. Um, or if you want to increase it, you can go for up to 30 seconds. So what I do is I will finish off, like if you see my Instagram, you know that I always share it on my stories. I will always finish my workout with 10 to 15 minutes of Stairmasters. This is my absolute favorite exercise. I love it so much. I just love it. And then I will do some stretches if my workout buddy is with me because he will not make me skip that. But yeah, I don't like stretching. I do stretch after a run, not necessarily after a strength training session. But I always do that cool down of like cardio going like slowly lower. Right, let's talk about progressive overload just for a second. Choosing your weight and increasing it can become will become very intuitive at some point and really easy the more you go to the gym. But here are some tips to like make sure you're safe. When you are trying a new exercise, start with a very light weight until you have the proper form before adding on more weight. So the way I actually do that is by filming myself or asking my gym buddy. I'm like, this is the video of exactly what I should be doing. Tell me if that's what I'm doing and correct me if I'm wrong. And I actually like having like someone to work out with to tell me, even if they're not like personal trainers, it's actually really fun. But to be honest, I've kind of reached I'm really white. I've reached the point where I don't really have new exercises to try, just because I like what I've found. Then you want to try adding like if you don't struggle for the last 2 or 3 reps, you can add more weight, even by like a couple kilos. Usually, that's what you want to do. And my goal is usually to have that progressive overload. So that's when you add more weight to an exercise for at least one exercise per session, but it doesn't happen all the time because sometimes it doesn't. And I don't see it as a failure. It's my goal, but I don't see it as a failure at all. So yeah, the ideal weight is one that is not too challenging, so you can keep that perfect safe form, but you have to struggle for the last 2 to 4 reps. Not struggle like it's failure, but struggle like you are kind of working, like you're really working hard to get that last few reps in. Right, let's talk about creating your cardio schedule. I am a runner, so this is definitely what is going to transpire into this video. But obviously, if you don't like doing any cardio, just focus on doing 7 to 10K steps every single day, on top of maybe doing 4, weightlifting sessions. Therefore, you would be doing like the upper lower split, for example, or any type of cardio that you enjoy for 30-45 minutes. The reason why I do not care the cardio you do is like, let's say you've heard that running is good, but you loathe it. You're not gonna, run as fast, run as long, and actually enjoy it. Therefore, you're not gonna stick to it. And if you don't run that fast, you might not burn as much calories as if you were doing something you love, like biking, like swimming, like dancing, or whatever. Some of my clients have had the best transformation. Actually, let me show you. Where is she? Okay. She has, Sarah, there is actually an interview with her. She has had one of the best transformation. At first, she was just dancing half an hour. She was dancing half an hour in her living room, and she loved it. She had like those little classes on YouTube. She did that. And then when she got confidence, sorry, she was like, you know what? I kind of want to run. And then she started running. But at first, she was dancing maybe twice per week, 3 times for 30 minutes. But the biggest transformation was like she was able to stick to the deficit, and that's the most important thing. Some people are like, this is too much, I can't do everything. Just focus on the food. Just focus on the food. Just focus on the food. Okay, let's get into this one. All right, welcome to this new chapter, which is going to be about creating your running plan. Some of you may not like running in this case and not plan on running at all. So in this case, you can just skip that one. Although it's kind of interesting and it works for any sports that you would like to train for. But I mean, by now you know that I absolutely love running. I'm a runner. I've run 10K races, half marathon. I'm training for another one. I just love running. And I really wanted to guide you to creating your own running plan. Just if you like someday being able to run long distances or any type of run actually. So the first step is always setting a goal. You know that by now. So if you've set for yourself a running goal during the first week of this program, then take it as a base. If not, let's start from scratch now. To be honest, I would really suggest that you register to a race that matches the goal that you figured out for yourself, because that way you have an idea for the time frame, and it's also going to get you excited, and you also have invested money, so even more reason to actually do it. So you have no choice but to train. There are 2 different types of goals concerning running. You've got distance-related goals, so it can be like running a specific distance regardless of the walking-running ratio, or running that set distance without stopping, no walking once, which is always fun to do. You also have time-related goals, which are basically running a specific distance in a more or less challenging time. But if you're a beginner, I do not recommend time-related goals. I highly recommend distance ones instead. So first and once, what did I do here? So you can either basically increase the distance or get a time goal for the specific distance that you've just reached. For example, if you want to train for a 5K, once you've reached that goal, record the time it took you to complete that distance, and then set yourself a shorter time goal. For example, when I ran my half marathon in October last year, I ran it in 2 hours and 10. So I decided that the next half marathon would be in less than 2 hours, even if it's 1 hour and 59 minutes and 59 seconds. That's my goal. So you can also build off of that. But my point with that is that once you've reached your first goal, it doesn't stop here. It doesn't mean that it's over. You want to keep going. You want to target something harder, go further, faster, and you really just keep challenging yourself. That's what makes it fun, especially if you end up loving running, which I would assume you do if you are watching this and actually thinking about it. But this is really what makes fitness fun too. So you want to start with a 5K, and then you can do a 10K, and then a half marathon, and then a marathon, and then they've got ultra marathon and Ironman and all of that. Right, I got excited for a second. Let's talk about types of runs. So the first one you have is base run, which is basically between short to medium length runs. It's going to depend, like the base run, long runs are just going to depend on your current fitness level, and your base run is not going to be my best run, and your long run is not going to be my long run either. So they're great for endurance and air. You see the word, I can't say it, but it's not meant to be challenging. This should compose most of your runs. And to be fair, the week when you have your race, I feel like this is also what the type of run that you should have, like not long run, just easy run when you just get to enjoy the race, enjoy the run. Then we have long runs, which are great for muscle and heart strength and obviously helps you improve endurance. But again, it will depend on your fitness levels and goals. And I really recommend having one of these per week. And the pace should be slower than what you're targeting for that race if you're targeting a specific timing. Then you've got hill training, which are not fun. It's short but intense, and it starts from the bottom of the hill, and basically you sprint as fast as you can up the hill. Then you jog back down, and you repeat as many times as you've decided. I feel like 3 to 10 is a good one. Obviously, you want to have like some short run before to get yourself warmed up. It's pretty challenging, so no more than once per week. Then you've got sprints, which is basically the same but no hills. And the way I do it, so this is my favorite types of run actually. So the way I do it is I start with a 10 to 15 minute run as my warm up, which is about 2.5K. And then I will sprint as fast as I can for 10 to 20 seconds. And so the way I count it, it's not like it's between 15 to 20 seconds. And the way I count it is basically each step counts as one. So I'm going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, basically. And then I do that 15 times. So if you see me doing a sprint and just like doing that, it's just because I'm running, like I'm counting in my head. And it's weird enough, once I found this trick, I was able to go for longer. So yeah, I do it mostly 8 times, not gonna lie. And then I finish it off with a 10-minute run, which can be a 5-minute run, and then like a 2-minute, it can be a 2-minute run, and then you're absolutely exhausted, so you walk the rest home. It can be a thing. To be honest, I don't really care what I do after the sprints because this is the main session for me. Then you've got intervals, which I hate it. It's a mix of low, moderate, and high intensity, but it's not really sprints. It basically helps you like improve your ability to run faster for longer. So you basically alternate between short periods, like 1 minute at fast pace, which can be like your race pace or a little bit faster than that. And then you follow that by longer periods of like low intensity. But it's one when you really need to push yourself. I don't like it. 1 per week is great. As you get more experience, maybe you could do 2. But that's a lot of workouts, I feel. So to be honest, don't really, take my recommendation for how many per weeks you should do, because it really depends if you're training for a run, for a race, or if you just wanted to have like that hybrid training that everyone's talking about on the social media. So as I said, the way I do it is 10 to 15 minutes of a warm-up, so slow run. Then I do 200 to 600 meter at my targeted pace or faster. So sometimes it's like 3K per hour. I hate it. 3K like kilometer per hour. I hate it. I don't like it. And then 200 to 300 at a slower pace or even walk. So you do this 2 to 6 times, and then you can run back home 10 to 15 minutes or walk. It doesn't really matter. So what I do is I have one long run every week. I have one pace run, like pace, is that the word? Yeah, base run, sorry. Then I do one sprint and one interval. But I run 3 times per week most times, and not gonna lie, if one goes, it's the interval training because I don't like it. I love sprints, it kind of does the same thing, although it doesn't help me like train at a specific pace, but it does help. Right, let's talk safe mileage increase, so you can actually have a weekly plan, like something that, and a monthly plan and so on. I love math and I love plans, so I'm good at that. But this is how I calculate the mileage increase. To be fair, I don't really bother that much now, but when you're a beginner, I guess it would be safe to do that. So it's been proven that a 10% weekly increase is to be applied as the safest, most efficient increase. So let's assume that you have been running 6K per week. So let's say you do 2 3K base runs. but if you're ready to increase the mileage, you want to add 10%. So, 6% is 6.6, but make it 7. And then each week or whenever you feel ready, or if you want to like challenge yourself, you can do it every week. You want to add 10% again to your weekly mileage. So, you've got 7 plus 10%, that's 7.7, but make it 8, and you see what I've done here. And that way you increase your mileage, and it's a safe mileage increase, basically. I know it can feel quite long, but it's better to do a slow increase that put too much stress on your body and, not let it adapt to the change and actually improve and, burn out, which we already talked about, not good. So you want to avoid that. I'm not saying that this will 100% prevent all injuries, but it will help reduce it. This means that if your goal is to run a half marathon, you pretty much want to reverse engineer the process instead of decide of checking on the internet like a random how many weeks of training to get to a half marathon. You can figure out how much, like you can basically build off of what you're running right now and add 10% until you have a safe mileage for the marathon, for the half marathon itself, which is like 21K. So, if you run 6K per week now, you're not quite ready. And I would recommend like at least, I don't know, maybe a good 6 months of training for a half marathon. Not that much for a 10K, but you want to start with a 10K, obviously. It really depends on, like I'm saying 6 months off the top of my head. I've never done any training back to back, like from 10K to then half marathon and so on. So I had my half marathon at the beginning of October, right? And I started training at the beginning of July, I would say. And by then I was running 3 times per week, 5K. So I was running 15K every week. So it was fairly easy to increase it towards like 21 per at least 21. Like you obviously don't want the 21 to be your max you can do for a week. You want to do more. It's actually, I have been using, I think I write it somewhere. I used an app called Frequence for my running plan just to have a visual. And it actually is what gives me the safe running mileage. But to be honest, if you are a beginner and training for a 10K race, just build off what you have now and add the 10% every week. But yeah, this applies for really any goals you have. I hope it made sense. Like I got confused for a second. But yeah, I hope it made sense. Note that on the actual race week, I think I've just mentioned that before, especially for 15K and above, you don't want to run that much during the week. So I'd rather go like twice for a slow 5K instead of targeting an 18K run. You do not need to be able to complete a half marathon before the actual half marathon. The most I've run before my race was 18K. And I was like, well, 3K is not that much. Turns out it's a lot, but 3K, like after 18K, it's a lot. But, it didn't prevent me from completing it. And you don't actually need to have that race done. Like, you can run it before the run, like the race itself. Right, let's talk weekly schedule. Choosing what type of runs you want to do can be hard, but if you keep in mind your fitness levels and your goals, it doesn't have to be. It's up to you to choose, and there is no right, no wrong when it comes to like creating your weekly schedule, I feel. Um, so if you are a beginner, I would recommend you start with running like 1 to 3 times per week, not more, just so you can actually get comfortable, and then you want to increase the runs to like 3 to 4 maybe when you get a bit more intermediate. So as you can see here, you've got like, for example, you can run 2 base runs per week, or 1 base run and 1 long run, or 1 base run followed by a sprint session and then another base run or long run. You can pretty much have fun with your weekly training. I wrote a lot of these out there. I just gave you a lot of possibilities. It's really up to you to experiment and have fun. All right, and now we are going to move on to consistency and accountability. I am huge on consistency just because, it is, if you do anything that you don't see yourself do. So if you do anything right now to lose the weight that you don't see yourself do after you've lost the weight, you are bound to fail. Some of you will tell me on, Instagram, oh, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I eat once per day. I'm like, cool. Is that something you'll do once you've lost the weight? Oh no, I'm going to go back to, eating normally. You're going to gain the weight back. Same for every single thing. And one of the biggest reasons why I think I've been so successful with, my fat loss journey is, first of all, because I had that light bulb moment at some point, which was, I I'm gonna track my calories for the next 2 years. And I'm gonna do a few body recon. Sometimes I'm gonna build muscle, sometimes I'm gonna lose the fat. And it's gonna, let's say it's gonna take me 2 years, and then we'll think about not tracking. Now, does that mean that I will actually do that? No. But that actually means that it's long term. I love, like, tracking gives me the freedom to eat whatever I want, because if it fit my macros, you can bet that I'm gonna have ice cream every single night. And it's so much easier. That's why I keep talking about it. It is not a prison. It's like basically a recipe. And that will give you the flexibility that you need to do everything and go out and eat what you love. Because if you see on paper, it's fine, I'm in my deficit, it's fine, I've got my protein, there is no way you're not going to get to your goals. That's all that matters. The rest, if you want to, and that's like something I tell all of my clients, I'm like, please eat the food you love. Please literally force yourself to have those food that you think are not good and are gonna, just because it's not gonna prevent you to. That's why I'm showing everything that I eat on my Instagram stories. Like, I'm gonna show the sneakers every night, being like, oh yeah, I'm having a sneakers, and the next day, oh, look at that, I've lost weight. Because you have to remove the idea that if you don't eat 100% perfectly all the time, you're never going to lose weight. It is so not true. And that's why you bitch, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's get into this video all about discipline, 1% better. And there is so much about consistency and accountability in my program, but I think that was one of my favorite videos, so let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to this new chapter in which we are going to talk about consistency, because this is the number one problem, hands down, that people mention when it comes to losing weight and, getting to any goals. It's the lack of consistency. So, quick definition basically mean the quality of always behaving or performing in a similar way, or of always happening in a similar way. Basically means being able to do the same thing over and over, days in and days out. So let's talk about how to fix the lack of consistency issue, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the daily imperfect actions that matter more than the once in a while perfect day. So obviously the first thing you want to do is figure out, why am I inconsistent? Obviously. And the major culprits here often are overdoing it. So going from 0 to 100 overnight. And, it is tough to do that. It is very, very difficult to go from 0 to 100 overnight, because you overwhelm yourself. And, all change is going to be difficult. So you want to make it as easy as possible for you. So, go from 0 to 1, 0 to 10, you should be good. The next reason, is not making the new lifestyle be improvement of your current one, meaning that, the gym, the runs and whatnot do not fit in with your life. We're going to talk about in a second about what to do, but I really wanted to get this one out there. Third one, maybe obvious, maybe not, the lack of enjoyment. If you hate running, do not run. If you hate your diet, figure out what you hate and change it. There's so many options out there in terms of workout and diet, that you will find the one that will give you amazing results and fit your lifestyle and fit your desires and fit what you like. The last one is lack of preparation and having an unsupportive environment. This one doesn't apply to everyone, I feel, but it's so easy to reduce the friction before the problem even happens, and then avoiding the problem altogether. So for example, really quick one is, if you're trying to stop snacking and you still have the cupboard full of sweet snack, it's going to be way more difficult than to not have any snacks at home and, having to go to the groceries when you have the urge to snack, right? So, you have to make the improvements difficult to avoid and the bad habits difficult to do. In terms of improvement difficult to avoid, for example, you've got going to the gym, have a gym buddy that will come and pick you up. For example, someone who has gone to the gym, has been going to the gym, or someone who will be doing that with you, and if you know someone's expecting you, if you know someone's going to be waiting for you, you're going to show up instead of not, because you're going on your own. For example, I found that this was one of the biggest reasons as to why I was having PT sessions. Like, people come to me and they're like, I know that if I know you're expecting me, of course I'm going to show up. I would not if I was alone. So you can try to do that. You can also try to set your gym clothes on your chair before the actual, like the night before. You can also wear your gym clothes if they are comfortable enough to bed, so the first thing in the morning you're able to do that, but point is, make the improvements difficult to avoid for sure. So yeah, changes are going to be uncomfortable. This journey is not going to be the easiest you'll go through, but you'll be so proud you have gone through it, and you have to make it as comfortable as possible. So let's talk about what to actually do. Second step, once we know, okay, these are the main culprits, and this one is the one that particularly, works for me, or is what's going on with me. You want to figure out where you lie, like on each spectrum. I feel like for the four, you've got like a spectrum for each of them, and you just have to pinpoint where you are. And from there, you will be able to act accordingly based on the examples that I've just given you, for example. And that's something we can brainstorm on our call, obviously, to try and find solutions to make the friction as small as possible. For example, obviously finding exercises that you enjoy and a diet that you enjoy. If you like weightlifting but you miss Pilates, obviously, even if I'm not a Pilates instructor, I am going to be prescribing you some Pilates, right? And if you hate savory breakfast, I'm not going to make you have a savory breakfast, even if you know it can be good and so on and so forth. If you don't like that, I will find a high protein breakfast instead that is sweet and works for you, right? The second thing, and it can feel like it's not correlated at all, but sleeping enough. I feel like I'm saying it for every lesson, but it's so important. Focusing on 1% improvement are going to assist you so much. And if you have the energy to do it, you'll do it. More likely, at least, you'll do it. So make sure you sleep enough. Go back to the sleep module if you haven't had this one fixed yet. But I feel like this is something I do week 1, week 2 with with some of you guys. And so, yeah, definitely. You really want to fix that sleep, because if you have the energy, you're going to follow through way more likely than if you are running on 4 hours of sleep. You're not going to be doing that much. That makes sense, So that. And then the last one is finding a good support system. Hello. And creating a supportive environment. As I said, with the snack cupboards, for example, it's also going to help you out. You can do in the community, for example, is ask for an accountability buddy. I'm obviously one, but you can find someone else if you'd like to have someone who's also on the weight loss journey. Oh, right. This one is really, really important. Planning for failure. And you're going to be like, what am I? Why would I fail? You are going to fail. Okay. If you're prepared for that, you are going to, you see, I'm getting a bit excited about that. You are going to miss a workout. You are going to have a less healthy meal, an event that you go to and, you can't track, or you track and, it's going to be in surplus, whatever. You'll get sick. Life will get in the way. Okay, you have to be mentally prepared for that to happen, because how you will react to that one missed workout, one missed healthy meal, one missed day is going to determine whether you are successful long run or not. Never miss twice should be your new motto in these specific circumstances. Okay, getting right back on track without trying to compensate is so key. I know I've said it in a previous module, most likely in terms of nutrition, but yeah, don't miss twice. It happened. Life is still happening. Like, life is still, whatever we say, whatever's saying, don't compensate. Just move on. Okay. It's when you have that mentality of I have to make up for it that you get into the binge restrict cycle and the start and stop cycle. So really be mindful of that. You'll have all the journaling prompts ideal to have figured out in the assignment, so check that out. But here is my plan when I slip up, because I'm not perfect. I miss workout days. I miss healthy meal. I drink and party sometimes, rarely, not gonna lie. I'm very much an introvert, but it happens to everyone. So the first thing is figure out what happened. Okay. Sometimes it's really not that deep. You just got sick and needed to rest. So of course you were not going to go running 10K if you were sick. Okay. You stayed in bed and that was good enough. Right. But other time, maybe you lacked the discipline, speaking from experience, to go to bed early enough and you slept through your alarm. Or you woke up and felt way too tired with just 6 hours of sleep or 5 to actually do the workout. On that, you can take action. Okay, so figure out what happened and then what can you do to prevent it from happening. Okay. The second thing is get back to your whys. I do not know why this works so well, but get back to the list of all the reasons why you need to get to your goals. Like I have it on my phone. Why do I need to work out? Why do I need to do this and that? And I have my reasons. And when I slip up, this is the most important moment for me to reread them. Okay. The third thing is I will figure out what do I need to do to avoid the mistakes from happening in the future. I have very much, I'm so grateful for that, a growth mindset, which means like every time I slip up, I'm going to go, what happened? Where was I mistaken here? Where the mistake is, and what can I do to prevent it from happening again? For example, now I have a screen time settings telling me, okay, you have done enough Instagram for the day. And you've got like specific hours that you can do, like go on social, or screen times like at 10 p.m. is going to say nope, good night, stuff like that. Figure out. And it can feel like you're very much taking care of yourself as you are your own children, like your own child. But sometimes it's really nice actually to know that you are looking after yourself like you're looking after a child, because you have this loving energy behind it of, I'm literally just doing what's best for you. I know that you need the sleep, just like you would do with a child. Sometimes treat yourself like a child. For real, works really well in certain circumstances, because you're going to be more likely more loving and caring and kind when you mess up to a child who messed up than you who messed up. Okay. And the last one is obviously execution. Don't wait until Monday. I'm sorry, this is stupid to wait until Monday. Start now. Like messed up at noon, okay, have a healthy snack if you're hungry, or have a healthy dinner. Decide that you like to sleep like one day, okay, have a good night of sleep today. Maybe you missed a workout today, okay, can you go for a walk right now? Without it being obsessive, can you go for a walk right now? Is that something that would make you feel good about yourself, and avoid that you'd get into the compensation mentality or the stop mentality as well. This one is so huge. We don't talk about it nearly enough. Imperfect actions. That means that sometimes you will have the opportunity to work out for only half an hour instead of 1 hour like you planned, or even 15 minutes instead of 30, or instead of 1 hour. And or maybe you won't have time to go to the gym and will have to like do a home workout. You could do that, okay? On these occasions, you'll have to get the imperfect actions done over skipping the workout altogether, because it's not perfect or not the way I planned it. Sometimes you can go to the gym. Okay, I used to do that this winter because I was really struggling. I would go to the gym, didn't have much time, didn't have much energy, no, not even wanting to do the workout, right? And I would do like jump, not doing abs, straight into the workout, stretching barely because I don't like that. And I would do like 3 to 4 exercises instead of the 6 I had planned, plus 10 minutes abs, plus 15-minute cardio. At least I went, at least I trained. Was not perfect, but the box is ticked, and that's all that matters some days, okay? Can be applied for every area of your life. Obviously, we're talking training and nutrition here, but focus on the 1% better, on trying to do a little bit instead of like every single day, instead of perfectly just once every month. All right, let's talk accountability. You may want to have someone else helping you being accountable, because again, when the like act of having to show up is placed within someone else, you have that peer pressure, so you don't want to disappoint them. Weirdly enough, you don't mind about disappointing you, but you don't want to disappoint someone else, so you're going to show up for someone else, right? So obviously that's my job, but it can be beneficial for you to have someone like your partner, a sibling, a friend, someone you can call anytime and text to go to the gym with you on the days you don't feel like it. This is so helpful. For me, it was my brother. I would be like, I am so not into going for a run. You bet that he would call me and be like, you're going for a run. Like right now, you're putting your shoes on, right? I'm like, fine. I would do it. And then I would thank him for like, calling and taking the time to boost me and like, really get me up. So find that person for you. And sometimes it can be me. Sometimes it's really nice to have someone else, because we are not going to be working together forever. So you want to find someone else. Sometimes it can be you as well. Like you can literally film a video of yourself saying, okay, you are probably not wanting to go to the gym right now, but here is what you need to know. And just write down a letter for when you don't feel like it and write everything you need to hear. It works as well. You can be your own accountability partner, especially if you do have a reward system in place for the difficult habits. It's in module maybe 2, not sure, but we know we talked about that. So, perfect actions, difficult habits, whatever, have that reward system can also be really helpful in staying accountable and consistent. Now, binging. Because obviously, it's one thing to lose weight, it's another thing to gain it back because you binge. And I've been there, and I can tell you now that it's not the easy path. But I've got a roadmap now. It's not easy to gain the weight back. I feel you, but I've got the, little work. Again, this is part of the program. And if I had to choose one video, like basically for each, it took me a hot second to figure out exactly how to, like which one, because all of them are really good. Sorry to tune my own horn here. Did I say that right? I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, the first phase, you do not count. After a binge, I don't care. You don't count your calories. You don't count your calories. You are going to be hungrier. Therefore, just allow yourself to eat, because if you create that safety, you will lower the urges and you will lower the instances when you want to binge, and then you will just stop binging. So the next day, 3 meals, 1 to 2 snacks, if not 3. And you keep on doing that because binging will create, more hunger. So it will take a hot second for it to stabilize, and then you'll be able to, rebuild that trust and count calories and lose the weight. I used to have, and that's because I didn't have that roadmap, but way before, tracking would lead to a binge, and I had to go through those 4 phases in order to not automatically binge and associate safety, like tracking with safety, because the moment you do that, the easier it's going to get to not binge. Safety. That's the one thing that will make you binge, is if you don't feel safe, it will trigger something in your nervous system, and that's why you binge. Restriction creates that, so no restriction. Let's get into this one, which is to, gain awareness of the triggers and patterns, because awareness is the power you need to be able to make the first step in healing. All right, hi, let's get into module 2, which is all about building awareness of triggers and patterns. And that is such an important step, because when you identify your emotional, physical, and situational triggers that lead to binges, it's going to be so much easier to catch yourself and stop yourself from doing it. When you understand the mind-body connection and how hunger and emotions influence eating, same thing, easier to stop yourself because you have that awareness. We will also develop tools to track and uncover eating patterns and triggers, and breaking the habit of binging, because yes, it is. So let's get into it. Why this matters. You don't binge because you lack control. You binge because something triggered you, triggered your brain, triggered your body. So our job really isn't to eliminate the triggers, especially not at first. It's just to understand them so you can stop yourself again. So there will be a lot of journaling from you, because this is the best way to figure out where you are and where they are. Right, let's talk self-assessment, identifying triggers. You have 3 types of triggers. Emotional ones, which are basically linked to when you feel stressed or sad or anxiety, you will need comfort, therefore you binge. It pushes us basically towards like food for comfort or distraction. When you feel physical triggers, which can be physical hunger, we get back to that restriction. If you feel so hungry that you could eat everything and you end up doing that, because your body doesn't have the nutrients it needs to function, and you experience low blood sugar or even fatigue, those are physical triggers. And situational / your environment, or social for that matter, because it makes it easy to overeat sometimes, like being at a party or when you're watching TV, if you have the habit, which we will get into soon, of actually binging them, that's what will happen. Or feeling the pressure of a busy schedule, therefore you sort of like have no time, so eat a lot, if that makes sense. For me, that's what re-triggered the biggest binges. Like it would happen before, right? But getting back to the first place I ever binged was definitely the trigger for restarting the binges as high as it went, because it was like sort of not under control, but you know, just once or twice a month, and that was fine. And then it became like I got back there and immediately I was like, oh, this is where it all started. I only realized a couple binges in because I was like, this is not normal. Like once, sure, twice, that's not okay, like in the same 3 or 4 days. And yeah, situation is really key. But the takeaways is that emotional eating usually follows an internal emotion. Binges is basically, you know, emotional eating, right? Physical hunger is a gradual sensation that needs a need for nutrition, right? So that's another trigger if you wait too long, but we're going to get into that soon. And situational triggers often occur, as I've just said, in familiar places or during specific activities. So maybe you tend to binge, you know, at 9 p.m. because you're bored and you're lonely and you're on the couch and you just get into the pantry, take as much stuff and eat as much as you can on the couch. Like it's that type of triggers that you want to identify. So we obviously have some tracking tools for self-awareness. You will have everything down below. You have a lot of journaling ahead of you because it will help you recognize the patterns and, you know, over time being able to break them. You will have a daily food and mood journal, just because I need you to track a lot of what you eat. It can be just screenshot from MyFitnessPal for all I care. Like I just need you to have a way to remember how much you eat and what you've eaten, and then ask yourself, what was I feeling before, and then during, and then after. What time of the day was it? Were there any particular I'm gonna struggle to say that, environmental, I'm sorry, or social factors involved, like where or who are you with? Tracking your emotion and hunger levels, or like with context obviously, allows you to notice common themes, and you will really quickly, oh, I always binge at that time, or I'll binge when I feel that, or I'll binge when I get that, or with this person. So that will, yeah, just let you figure out where you end up binging and when and why. So yeah, you can track on your Notion page or anything else if you feel like something else would be more convenient to you. I'm not gonna get into that. Journaling, we love that. So let's talk about the mind-body connection for a second and eating behaviors. Our body's hunger signal and emotional states are really closely linked, okay? So emotional hunger can feel just as urgent as physical one, but the key here is in like how they manifest and how they are managed to help you figure out if you should eat or if it's a binge coming. Because, well, I know that I wrote that down a couple slides down. A binge will always let you know when it's coming. Like you feel the wave coming, right? Just like when you're on the beach, you see the wave coming before it crashes. Same with a binge. So, you know, physical hunger, it develops gradually. You will feel the need to nourish your body, and you basically will be satisfied with any type of food. You don't have a specific cravings for like, oh, I need cookie dough right now, because that's not really what you would crave for an actual meal. And it's really characterized by a growling stomach, or lack of energy, or feeling hungry. And then you have emotional hunger on the other side of the spectrum, which is basically suddenly, and there is a trigger that you should just see right before, and it's often linked to comfort food, and it's why like cookie dough, whatever applies to you, right? And it is driven by emotions. So I made you this handy little table to distinguish between the two, so you can ask yourself when you feel like you want to eat, am I actually hungry, or is it my emotions that are telling me we need to soothe right now? And this is the best way, again, to break free from emotional eating, when you have that and when you can distinguish, because sometimes it's difficult, you're not sure, but this is like you can't confuse the two once you have that. And it will be easier to, you know, control and figure out where you're at and make healthier choices for yourself. Now, the fact of having that is going to lead you to awareness and freedom. Well, the fact of having that will lead you to freedom for that matter. Because as I said right before, see, your body will give you a clue when you want to binge or when it's about to give you the want to binge. So emotional discomfort often shows up physically as well. And that's a good thing. And that's a reason why you sort of aren't sure whether it's physical or emotional, because you will feel like some type of restlessness or fatigue and tight chest, and you know, you'll feel like, oh, maybe it's like my body literally needing food, when it's like emotional, but it just translates into how, like, physically, let's say. So you want to identify those triggers so you can pause and, you know, interrupt the pattern and make a different choice. Obviously, you have journaling prompts to reflect on any emotional eating episodes that might happen. I'm hoping not, because you know this is a new environment, this coaching program, and yeah, you will have a lot of it for like to come in this module and in the ones to come. So I don't want to say I'm sorry, but it is a lot of work from you. I'm just here to tell you that this is what you should look at, and then you do it, and then you heal. I did a lot of journaling. That's literally what clicked in my brain. Like at some point stuff clicked because I was writing stuff down. So you will want to identify your emotional triggers, obviously, whether it's like emotional, physical, situational. And once you identify them, you will figure out, okay, how can I make a, because you want to, since it's awareness, right? You want to, how to say that? Place yourself in that situation in writing before it actually happens. So you're like, okay, so the first choice is the binge, right? But what should I do instead? And so it's the fork in the road, and just visualizing it primes your brain to choose the healthier road when you actually come to that fork in the road. Oh my God, I'm going to binge, like physically when it's happening. So yeah, you will want to, you know, track different triggers throughout the day and identify your most common cues and begin, as I said, to formulate new response to those triggers. Okay, that's something I've already talked about it in the like main course, but I really wanted to go back to the hunger versus emotional states with the hunger scale. Because before eating, you want to ask yourself, okay, rate like your hunger on a hunger scale, you know, 1, and then you want to like, it's not a 1 to 10, it's like 1 being starving and 10 being painfully full, so it kind of is, well, 9, but it's fine. And then you want to rate your emotional state. Am I feeling calm, or am I feeling really anxious? And is it why I'm eating? And use those two tools, like those two questions. Like first you rate your hunger, second you rate your emotional state, and then you will be able to make a decision off of that. Is it like physical hunger or emotional hunger? And of the table I've just showed you. So this is why like it's really key to have all those tools, and you can just take pictures and have screenshots. Again, this is not something you will need to do for the rest of your life. It's just something you need to do for the next 6-8 weeks, just to figure out, and it will be less often and less often as you get yourself used to making the better choice for yourself. But you really want to take the extra step now so it gets easier in the future to not even have to think about it. It will be automatic, but you have to be aware of the tools and aware of when you need to use them now. Yes, you obviously have mindful eating practices, because sometimes if you don't really pay attention to how much you're eating because you're working when you eat, for example, you won't really realize that you need to eat. No, you won't really realize that you're full, right? And you really want to ask yourself, you know, when you're eating, can you take your time and avoid distractions and take deep breath and rate your hunger like as you go along and how you feel. Practice just eating slowly and savoring each bite. Binge eating as a loop. Okay, let's get into that. It's not about willpower, it's about pattern recognition. Because as I said, you start doing it and then your brain immediately says, ooh, brain, how do I say that? Oh, comfort. So let me just rewire that as automatic decision, just because your brain doesn't really like to have a lot of work to do. So it will like automatically drive stuff. So binge eating did become, no judgment, an automatic habit loop. When you feel this, then that. It's basically what happens in your brain. This, then that. So if you feel stuff like anger or sadness, then binge. That's basically what happened. Now, I've made a video in the main course about habit, but I wanted to remind you and get specifically into binging. You've got the cue, the craving, the routine, and the reward. So the cue is everything that we've just talked about. The craving is, oh, I need to feel comfort, I need to feel release, I need to distract myself and, sort of have that dopamine hit. The routine is the, obvious turning to food and eating and binging. And then the reward is whatever, that temporary relief, distraction from emotion, feeling full, momentary pleasure. So over time, these loops that started just once automatically and neurologically, okay, it's like chemically reinforced in your brain. And especially when there is a strong emotion behind it, like guilt or restriction, it sort of wire it stronger in the brain if there is an emotion behind it. Obviously, you want to break the loop. In the main course, I did say you can't really break a habit, you can only replace it. So this is exactly what we're gonna do. Instead of trying to not do something, you are going to replace it with another choice. It's not about fighting the craving, it's about interrupting the loop with awareness and new coping tools. So, strategies to break the loops are going to be, first you name the cue, which we have done all throughout, like at the beginning. Is it stress, restriction, a specific time, specific place, specific person? Pause during the craving, notice what you're truly needing in the moment. As I said, do you need comfort? Do you actually need food? Or do you need to distract yourself? And then experiment with alternate solution, coping mechanism, routines. Maybe you need a grounding exercise, maybe you need to call a friend, maybe you need to take a walk, maybe you need to journal. Stuff like that, okay? And you will have a SOS binge thing anyways in the audio part bonus section, so don't worry about it, you'll also have that. You can experiment with that. And then track the rewards. Did that new routine meet your need in a sustainable way? Which I'm sure it will. And create a reward system. Again, I really invite you, I don't really want it to be too much of a repetition. I really invite you to get back into the habit thing. But you can create a specific reward for every time you feel like binging, but you don't, which is something I've done. Like every time I feel like binging, but don't, I put like €1 into a box, even if it means like €5 in a day. Sure, fine, as long as I don't binge, I don't care. Right, let's move on to phase 2, which is rebuilding trust with food and body. One of the biggest problem is that you don't trust your hunger cues and you have a huge food scarcity and the fear of actually eating enough. So you can tell that I wasn't sure which video I was like going to talk to, because I started saying something and then this one popped up, and this is not, I mean, that's one of my favorite video though, because the moment I realized that I gained weight, okay. I realized that the reason why I gained weight twice in the US was because I was scared that I would go back home and never come back. So I had to eat all of the food all of the time. And it's the US, so the portions are huge, and the options are like so many options, right? Infinite, honestly. So I had to realize that if I go back home, whenever I want, I can go back to the US, and I'm actually going back. Therefore, it's not because, I mean, everything will be explained, but the US will still be there, and I don't have to overeat to the point of discomfort. That's one of the reasons I binged, obviously, but I had to realize that because this, like twice, it was due to that as well, like due to the fact that I was in the US and oh my god, so much food, I need to eat everything. No, you don't. So we'll talk about this one. Let's watch this masterclass. All right, this module is so important. We're going to talk about food scarcity, poverty, and the fear of enough, regardless of whether you've gone through poverty or not. Because food insecurity, whether past or present, will, as we talk about, overdrive overeating, food anxiety, and guilt around foodness because of the trauma that it caused. So what is the scarcity mindset? It's basically referring to a belief system rooted in fear, where you feel there is never enough, whether that's food, time, money, energy. When it comes to food, this mindset manifests in fear of not having enough to eat, which can trigger overeating or hoarding. Think about, poverty. Obviously, you don't have access to food or as much as you'd like. So the moment you have it, like you want to over it. Let's think about if you don't and that's sort of linked to poverty as well. You don't go to restaurants that often. Therefore, when you do go, you're going to order so much food. If you get able to do that, you're going to order a lot of food and make sure you finish everything, even if it makes you sick. And same for vacation. I have to eat all of that food because I won't have access to it later. So it's not about necessarily not having the money to, it's about not feeling like you don't have the occasion to have that. When you have to realize that Italy is always going to be there. You can eat all the pasta you want. You can go back there. And same for all the restaurants you go to. It's still going to be there. You will have access to that food later. We'll talk about that a bit deeper, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. But this really happens from early life experiences where food may have been limited, or from cultural conditioning that promotes dieting or restriction. It also can be linked to, oh my god, I'm going to go on a diet, so I might eat everything right now and enjoy all the food I'm not going to be able to eat tomorrow. And let's talk about the physical and emotional effects of that. So physiologically, when we fear food scarcity, scarcity, right? Our body go into survival mode, and it will prioritize food-seeking behavior, which is why when you go into that mode due to restriction, you only think about food because it's like your brain literally doing its thing. So you will think about overeating, like binging, when food gets available again, whether it is because, money, or you go back to a vacation, or you go back to that restaurant, or you finally, allow yourself to splurge and eat everything. Emotionally, it will create anxiety, guilt, and shame. And, we often feel we need to eat everything available just in case it's the last time we have it. And that's the same when you go out with your friends. You're going to be like, oh my God, I have to eat everything, drink everything. You can still go out tomorrow or next week with your friend. It's not like the world is going to disappear technically tomorrow, right? Famous last words, I'm sorry. That's the mentality of I have to now, because who knows when, like, if tomorrow is going to be a restrict day again. And it does obviously impact eating behavior. You may feel compelled to overeat in order to make the most out of the food that you have now. So that will lead to binging and feeling comfortably full and sick, and a lack of trust in yourself and your body's hunger cues, which is not good. So you want to understand the cycle of scarcity and overeating. It's like basically restriction and abundance, right? The body's natural survival instinct don't distinguish between food insecurity from childhood and restriction from dieting. That is a great Instagram post to make with the recent, unfortunately my body doesn't distinguish with that. I need to make this. It both triggers the same fear response. So insecurity from childhood, like food, and just restricting from dieting, even if you only went through one of those, it will not make the difference. It will just think famine, fear. That's it. It very simplified, okay? So you may eat excessively when food becomes available, either due to restriction or psychological barriers around eating enough. It's going to be the same thing. So we have to shift from restriction to abundance. You have to relearn that food is abundant. Italy is going to be there. That restaurant is going to be there. You will still be able to eat your favorite food tomorrow, because we are even on a weight loss journey for those who are there already, because you can eat the food you love, as I have. Like, I still eat cookies, I still eat cheese, I'm French, on a daily basis, and I'm still losing weight. You can eat your favorite food and still lose weight. Please, that's why I'm doing that. So, yeah, you have to relearn that food is abundant, quality, quantity, and can be consumed mindfully without fear of scarcity. And the moment you realize that this is why you operated, like you operated from that mode, therefore you binge, the moment you realize that and dig a little bit deeper as to why, this is when you realize, oh, but no, food is always going to be there. What am I thinking about? I mean, I get that I'm thinking about that, but because my brain is wired to that. But no, it's always going to be there. This restaurant, this weekend, these friends, it's always going to be around. Let's dive deeper into poverty, restriction, and the Last Supper mentality. This is going to be a big one. Let's talk about the clean your plate mentality, which surely, if you're like me, you've heard that. So this mentality starts in childhood when, especially in families where food access was limited, so the idea of wasting food can feel dangerous or irresponsible. And actually, fun fact, I still have that clean your plate mentality, and my boyfriend clearly doesn't. And this is so weird to see how we finish our plate, because he eats faster, but that's a man thing, isn't it? My plate is like clean. His, definitely not. Like, if there's crumbles or stuff, he's gonna leave it. And I'm like, I would never have been able to leave the table. And I don't know, even now, like, I'm still struggling to leave a few crumbles. Like, my plate has to be clean. So you can see how, based on the food access and how wealthy or not you were when you were a kid, doesn't mean that we were poor. We just were supposed to finish our plate. There's that too. So yeah, the idea of wasting food can feel dangerous or irresponsible, as a fear of not having enough later can be deeply ingrained. So again, you have to figure out why and where is it coming from. And this behavior was reinforced by external pressure, as I've just said, such as parental expectation. That's what my parents did. Like, I was not allowed to leave the table unless my plate was clean. But I mean, I've always been a good kid. Like, I love everything. So I was never that difficult child, but that was something that my brothers who are picky eaters had to like, they would be yelled at a lot because of that. Cultural conditioning or societal, I'm sorry I can't say it, norms. So that will lead to a disconnection between your internal hunger cues and external pressure, and that's what results in where you are at right now. As long-term effects, this will lead to compulsive eating or an inability to stop eating when full, because the fear of waste is tied to feeling of guilt and anxiety. I hope this makes sense. And again, let's dive a bit deeper into the Last Supper mentality. This is, as I said, the psychological tendency to overeat or indulge on certain food because later you won't have it, whether it's because food is not available or because you're going back into a diet. So obviously this will have a big impact on eating and it will lead to intense overindulgence, aka binge, right? And that's just due to a fear of missing out, or because you see it as the last opportunity to have certain food, which is why I say on our fat loss journey, we eat, like the food that you love has to be included in your plan, has to. That's not even a question. Whether you struggle with binge eating or not, it has to. So how to shift the mindset to break the cycle? You need, again, to recognize that food is always available, quantity, quality, and that eating can be done mindfully. Again, I'm repeating myself because I need to, without excess or restriction. It's all about finding that balance. Now, what is food trauma? I've slightly hinted at that earlier, but it refers to negative experiences or conditioning related to food. So this includes emotional eating, restrictive dieting, or growing up in, environment where there was a lot of food insecurity or scarcity. Whether it was because, you weren't sure you would have a meal later, and therefore, that would like imprint on your brain, and that leads to the trauma. Like it literally changed your brain chemistry and you have to rewire that. So yeah, it's often tied to emotions such as guilt, shame, anxiety, or fear, because obviously if you're not sure you're going to eat later, it's going to create fear. And this is rooted in childhood. Everything comes down to that. So if you experience intense fear of eating certain food or overeat in response to stress or feel overwhelmed by hunger and fullness cues, it could be because of food trauma. Again, you'll have all the journaling prompts down below and we'll talk about it, on our calls, because I really need to walk you through that. But it is so key. And once you realize that you have to heal that and you have to realize that, okay, this is not mine to carry anymore. This isn't for me anymore. This maybe used to be my reality, whether due to poverty or restriction. Okay, maybe I went through that, but right now food is abundant. There is no and then, it's just about rewiring everything. It's just like the restriction part and this scarcity mindset might not be so, like, you might not be so aware of it, which is why I'm bringing this one up to the surface, because it might be harder to see this one. Yeah, it will create a survival response, as I said, like hoarding or binging, because it is very much linked to your fight or flight reaction. In response to perceived food scarcity, the body might get into that state and it will trigger emotional eating and making sure you have enough, like in one go, have too much, because later you will have too little. So yeah, as I said, first step, recognize the patterns, no judgment, this is what happened to you, it's fine. And then build, new, safer food relationships, but also new thoughts about food is abundant. I'm fine. There's plenty of food around, and you can slowly reintroduce food. We'll talk about that without restriction, practicing mindful eating, and identifying the triggers. Okay, let's talk about building safety around food. First, you obviously want to be very mindful, especially at first when you eat. So in order to reprogram food trauma, you have to start eating with intention, literally telling yourself as you eat, there is plenty of food. I am so grateful for this food. There is so much more to come. It's available whenever I want it, whenever I need it. And slow down while you eat. Pay attention to how it feels in terms of hunger, in terms of fullness, in terms of sensation. But really realize and reconnect. It's basically like rewiring something. So you want to, when you eat, say stuff like, it's abundant. I have so much food around. If I want it, it's always going to be available. And the more you do that, the safer you will feel around food and around food. As always, you know that cognitive behavioral strategies, we have that in the previous part or the one before. You have a lot of that before. Identify and challenge the negative beliefs around food. So I have to eat everything because it's the last time. Rewire that, replace that with food is always available. Again, I'm repeating because I needed to. And I can have it whenever I want. And even the food that I deem, maybe that I wouldn't have on a fat loss journey, for example. And create a safe eating environment. So we want to reduce distractions, focus on enjoying the food at first, especially it's more important at first, and then you can do it less and less. And create ritual, that really supports the peace of mind and the calm. So have a designated eating space, slow down, take a few deep breaths before the meal, and you can even be like grateful. I don't know if you pray before a meal, but just be like, I'm so grateful for this food. There is plenty of it, and I'm grateful that now I get to experience some of it. And I know that later on I will get more if I want more, when I want more. Safety before strategy. Why safety comes first? Because it will regulate your nervous system. If you focus too much on strategies and numbers and exactly how long it should take you and all of that, before creating the structured plan around eating plans and around, strategies, especially when it comes to fat loss, you first have to address your body's nervous system, because the binge eating came from a dysregulated nervous system. So once you feel safe, you will naturally engage in balanced eating, and you will be able to lose the weight if that's your goal. And yeah, just because when we feel stressed or unsafe, which is what you probably are right now, even if you don't realize why, and that's why we're dealing with it, we may resort to overeating or food avoidance altogether, which will, binge restrict. And yeah, chronic stress and anxiety can cause, again, the fight or flight. I'm not going to repeat that. Tools for regulation. You might want to go to the eating, what is it called? Emotional eating thing. I can't remember how I called it. With all the breathing techniques and the meditation, you may want to do some of those. And in one of them specifically, I think it's in the stretch one, you would see the progressive muscle relaxation. So it basically involves like tensing your muscles very, very hard and then releasing altogether. That can help reduce the physiological tension. And as we said, this can lead to like difficulties around food. So I do that in the with the hands in this specific meditation, but you can really do it with like every muscle. And yeah, as I've said, mindful eating practices. Okay, phase 3. Now, okay, in this phase, by the way, we analyze a bit more, and then this is also the phase when you sort of start tracking calories, but just at like first you track whatever you want to eat, and you track like almost after, like you make a note of everything, and then after it you're like, okay, let's see how much calories that was. Therefore you don't have the, oh, I need to just know. If you are way above what you should be eating, that's the first step in knowing, in building that safety that I was talking about. Then I'm still in phase 2. Then you actually track at maintenance. So you keep on building that trust and that sense of safety of, I'm having enough food and I can still track. And that's how you associate that safety with tracking. And then we move on to weight loss, when you actually do the deficit. In that case, if you come from binge eating, do not, I'm saying that when I definitely did, do not go above 15% calorie deficit. I know you want to lose the weight quickly. I know how uncomfortable you are in your body. Do not go too quickly. Do not try to go too quickly. You are going to do a slight deficit. At first, you do like the smallest. I did the 10 to 15% deficit because I was like, you know what? I want to ease myself into hunger. Because obviously, you're going to be hungry on your fat loss journey. That's normal. That's okay. You just have to deal with it. And if you like binge immediately, that's not good. Small deficit. And then I moved on to the deficit that I'm at right now. Okay. Because I was safe. I was fine. I'm still okay. And I've been so much better, and I'm actually doing amazing. Sorry, again, at riding the waves of like the urges of binging. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know, because every time I have an urge, I will share it. And I haven't had that many. I think I've got like 2 to 3 so far that were like really strong that I had to share it. Doesn't mean that I don't think about like binging every day. I have the thought of like, I could, but I'm not gonna. And there is an entire different video coming on binge eating. But yeah, let's move on to practical tools to overcome binge episodes. All right, welcome to module 5, which is going to be practical tools to overcome binge episodes. So this is really about in-the-moment tools to help you manage, prevent, and recover from binge episodes. Although I'm hoping you will not have a binge, but let's just, be proactive here. So we'll talk about the 4-step recovery process, emergency tools for high craving moments, aka what to do when the urge to binge comes on, how to interrupt binge planning patterns, maybe will resonate with some of you, how to regulate your body and emotions during an urge, what to do after a binge without spiraling, and why learning to pause actually rewires your brain for self-trust. So, the 4-step recovery process. This is basically a simple method that I found after doing research and that I've when I was trying to heal from my binge eating disorder, and when I did, to respond to urges in the moment. So that's something I do even when I still, even now when I feel the urges, right? So this is about clarity, compassion, and control. Instead of defaulting to old patterns, as I said last module, we'll talk about taking that new path in awareness, self-regulation, and even if at first it will, be a little bit of work, it will get easier and easier. So why it works? It helps activate the prefrontal cortex, so that is the part of the brain responsible for impulse control and decision making, so you know exactly what we need here. Interrupts the habit loop, which you've talked about before, that drives the binge behavior, and really rewires your brain to tolerate discomfort and choose differently. So it's about telling your brain, it's fine to have the urge, but it doesn't mean that I have to act on it. So step 1, pause and breathe. And it's going to sound ridiculous or what is it going to do? But it's really, really, really helpful because it will calm your nervous system and interrupts the autopilot. And yeah, breathing exercises basically stimulate the vagus nerve, which lowers cortisol and increase emotional regulation. So yeah, you want to sort of deep breathe, slow down, and even just I wrote 5 minute, try 5 minute, even a 3-minute thing, on your watch, do a little breathing exercise. I know the Apple Watch does have that. And, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6 seconds, and then pause for 2. That's the basic, deep breathing type of exercise that you can have. And I will make a video, it's going to be in the emotional toolkit. I will make a video, I have to remember that, to sort of walk you through that meditation. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, let me just quickly write that down because otherwise I will forget and that would be so sad. Write and record the the binge breathing exercise / meditation for the healing toolbox. Okay, isn't that great? Okay, so I will be doing that soon. Step 2, refocus on your body. Get really clear on what's actually going on. So ask yourself, am I physically hungry or am I emotionally hungry or triggered? Again, we're going back to module 2 or something. Rate your emotional levels and rate your hunger using the scale. Again, we're going back to tools that we've already seen, but I want to sort of show how to use it in the moment. And tune into your body cues. So do you have any tension, any tightness? Do you feel empty? And yeah, basically it will help you lower, get that awareness and therefore lower the binge frequency and higher food trust, and cultivate higher food trust, because you might realize, okay, I'm actually physically hungry. Let's go eat. Or, oh, I'm emotionally triggered. Let's see what can I do about it. And that will help you, again, you pause, you're at that fork in the road, right? You have the usual, which is automatic binge, and you have the other one. And when you take your time to pause, it's easier to not rush through the binging moment and to refocus on your body. It sort of already helps you pivot to that healing path of no, I don't want to binge. This is not me. I don't do binges anymore. And let's see what I actually need and treat myself with kindness, because basically every binge is you need something. It's your body, your mind telling you, or your soul, however you want to call it, telling you, I need something. And binges sort of numb it instead of giving you what you need. Step 3, challenge the urge. This one is difficult, but that's like something I've told you before. That's what I do. So we break the binge habit loop with mindful presence. So use the urge surfing. As I say, I literally visualize, like I said that last module, I visualize it like a wave. So it's basically what it feels like anyway. You see the waves coming, and I'm going to repeat myself. You see the wave coming, and you feel it getting stronger and stronger as it's getting like in front of you. And maybe it's like a very, very tall wave, like tsunami type of wave. And sometimes it's like a much smaller. And what I do is I will either visualize it, you know, as I'm doing the exercise, or I'm going to do great meditation, visualizing coming down. So it's like shoulder level and it sort of washes over me, or I will just like visualize just falling over me and I'm like, well, I'm fine, that was okay, that was a bit brutal, but that was okay. And you know, I'm gonna make a meditation video on that. I'm so excited. Like actually it sounds, so you can follow it with me. I do that by repeating also stuff like, this is not my a command is not really what I want to say, but like it's like I feel the urge, I don't have to act on it. Like this is not me, I'm not a binge eater. I'm healing my relationship with food. My body needs something else, my mind needs something else. Let's figure out what I need. And the thing is, at first I was just trying to delay it like by 2 minutes, and you keep on, we're going to talk about that in a second, but you keep on increasing the waiting time because that will strengthen your response inhibition. Basically, delaying urges actually reduces the compulsive response and increases confidence over time because you see, well, I don't have to act on it immediately, and then it will sort of washes over you and you will be fine. Step 4, as always, self-care and compassion. So ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? What do I need at the moment? Sometimes it's actually food, and that's fine, you know. Sometimes it's like something completely different. So replace the urge with another ritual. You know, once you figure out, is it emotional hunger or physical hunger? If it's physical, go eat. If it's emotional, what else do I need? Maybe you need to walk. Maybe you literally need to take a nap. Maybe you need to call a friend. Maybe you need to journal. Maybe you need to send me a message. Maybe you need to, I don't know, whatever else you want to, like, you feel like doing. My best trick, and that's something I discovered when I got back home, is like when I feel the urge, I need to do something else, and I just, like, it's just like I'm bored or I'm sort of, I have that build up energy. So what I'm going to do is either I'm going to go for a walk or a run, depending on like what time of the day it is, or I'm going to paint my nails. I'm going to put something on Netflix or on YouTube and like a podcast sometimes, and I'm just going to paint my nails. And by the time, you know, it's all dry and I've done all the, you know, all the layers, it's gone, it's time to eat. So all I have to do is literally go and have like a snack or a meal. This was one of the best tricks that I have for you because it worked so well, because you're doing something for yourself, you're really grounding yourself in the moment, but you also have that sort of whatever you like listening. If you like watching like a funny show or I like education, that's sort of really like, that's what makes me feel good. Or, you know, those murder show, whatever you like, honestly, just do that. And even if you feel like you should be doing something else, like, even if you feel like, oh, I should be working or whatever, I would rather have you not work for like an hour and say, I didn't binge today, I almost did, but I didn't binge, than trying to work and ending up like binging, if you feel like you have something more that you should be doing. Another thing that I'm just thinking about right now, because we need to build up on all the proofs, right? So I'm hoping you take notes, take this one down. Film yourself every single time you have an urge, or record yourself or write it down. However, I'm very comfortable with the camera, as you can tell, so that's why I film myself every single time I had an urge for the past 40 days but didn't binge. I filmed myself, so now I have like 5-6 videos of me saying, I wanted to binge last night but I didn't, or I just wanted to binge but I didn't. I like was able to ride the wave. Do that, and you will be able to build that confidence, because you'll see, and like save it in a specific folder when like you can see all of the progress and you can swipe through all the things you've done and through all the times you almost binged but didn't, and you will gain so much confidence just by seeing, oh, I've done that before, okay, I can do it. It was hard, but it's not harder than it was. It's actually easier the more time passes since the last binge. Okay, the binge panic trap. I wanted to talk about that because I've never heard anyone talk about it. Planning a binge is like a mental ritual. I used to do that too. I was like, okay, my boyfriend is gonna be gone tonight, so I can eat whatever I want. And yeah, you know you're gonna be alone, so this is your free moment to binge and do whatever you want. But you can stop it, and here is how I did it. The moment you plan a binge, that's your opening. The moment you realize, oh, okay, so he's gonna be gone, so I can binge like in a couple of days. Recognize the trigger. I'm gonna be bored, I'm gonna be sad, I'm gonna be anxious, I'm gonna be lonely, whatever it may be, and say, okay, this thought of like, hey, what about a binge? This is not mine. I do not identify with it. It's just passing. It's just passing through. Doesn't mean that I need to act on it. It's just here. I don't like me, my thoughts, two different things. Replace the plan with an alternative. So again, we have the doing the puzzle, read, workouts, but that, I don't know about that. Any hobby, really. Anything that would make you feel good. So anything that would release dopamine, that is not being on your phone scrolling on socials. Because that's a different type of dopamine. I don't want that. So, because it can make it worse and all of that. Yeah, do that. You can also plan a snack or meal in advance. Make sure this is both healthy and comforting. So we don't really care about calories. As always, I would rather you say, well, I've been in maintenance or even in surplus, but always tracked and it wasn't a binge, than saying, oh, I binged, you know, which is obvious, duh. But I would rather you say, okay, I feel like binging. I'm going to have like this two things. For example, let's make a cheese quesadilla with like a lot of cheese. And let's make like a big bowl of veggies and chicken, a nice sauce so it tastes good. I would rather you have like a comforting, one of your favorite food, even if binging food, that depends on low threat binging food might be an okay thing. And a healthy food that will actually fill you up and make you feel like you're still on track and you know it's a balance of both, than have a binge, like obviously. So reach out for support. You don't have to say what it is. Like if you want to call someone, you don't have to explain, I'm about to binge, like can you walk me through it? You can just say, I'm having a hard time, can you talk to me? Or can you just distract me? That's literally something I would do with my brother. I would be like, I'm not okay, can you just like distract me for a hot second? And he will do the job so well. So yeah, it's just about talk. Or obviously you can also talk through the impulse. That can help you make a different choice because you talk through it and you're like, well, I'm about to binge because I'm going to feel this, and so on. Don't focus on perfection. As always, I keep saying it because it's so important. Be kind to yourself. Perhaps make sure to have healthier options on hand. Like as I just said, maybe if you don't want to plan something in advance, make sure that, you know, what's around the kitchen is healthier because it's more difficult. Not impossible. I have binged on once oats. It's more difficult and it's more filling, and after that you don't really want to eat anything else. So yeah. Also, anticipating a reward releases dopamine, but interrupting the loops rewire the brain for flexibility. So basically, the binge can be like anticipating it, can be a reward in itself and therefore dopamine. But if you plan for the alternative, that will also trigger dopamine. That will help interrupt the first loop and again, choose the different one. And then rewire it for the different one. Right, let's talk about some emergency recovery tools, because what to do when the urge is intense, like you sort of want to know that. I have a go-to tools list like on my phone. Like for example, I have a list of preferable to, well, least preferred, like preferred, but that's fine. I can still do it, of all the things that will have the biggest impact on me. So I have doing my nails, calling my brother, calling my boyfriend, not in that way, but he's on another time zone and the other one is working, so it's kind of a difficult one. But, you know, going for a run, going for a walk, having a snack, whatever else, doing puzzle. You know, you have that go-to list for the moment you feel like binging. Okay, let's immediately, like, it's like, I mean, I'm lucky to be able to drop everything if I do feel like binging. But it's like, drop everything and have that binge urge emergency kit in your phone, whether it's an app or filming yourself, telling yourself, okay, I know you're feeling that way, let's talk you through what to do. And those two are kind of, you know, complementary, kind of, not the same, but ish. Practice nervous system resets. I will be making a, you know, in the emotional healing toolkit thing, I will be making a couple meditation and a couple videos so you can sort of, you know, so I can sort of walk you through what to do, breath work and so on, and sensory grounding. I like going for walks or even a run. I love running, so that's why it's easy. If you prefer just walking, just a 15-minute walk can do like so many, like can do so many have so many benefits on you. Also, I'm thinking about it, another thing that you can do is just brush your teeth. That can be really helpful because it's sort of like in your mouth and then you don't really feel like eating after having like mint and so on. Or chewing gum. Those two are also helpful. Right, regulating during a binge. It can be challenging because it does feel like an out-of-body experience, and I can't say that I've been necessarily successful with them, but here are from my research and other people's experience, and that sort of helped me also not feel as sick or not binge as much. Pause and breathe. As I said, you might want, if you manage to stop yourself, pause and breathe, and do that 4-6-4-2 thing. And just calm your nervous system as best as you can, right? Just to reduce the impulse and sort of take a step back. Check in with your body. We're going back to that step, like 4-step out of binge, right? But that can be helpful. Are you physically hungry? Are you still hungry? Can you stop yourself? Were you emotionally hungry and why? Sit down, no distraction. This one, that was my only rule. I would tell myself I'm not allowed to, eat while I'm standing up, while I'm doing something else, because I would, prepare food and binge, for example. It was like, no standing up and doing something else while binging. At least try to, sit down, no distraction, and focus on the food, even if it's an out-of-body experience and it goes really quickly. It had success in actually preventing me from binging as much. So yeah, that just gets you closer to mindful eating and sort of gets you back into your body as well, which can be easier to, again, take a step back from the binge and stop yourself. Getting out, not necessarily outside, but just getting out of the space you're in, the usual binge environment, can also help, shift your brain from like, well, this is not what we're doing anymore. And address emotional triggers, as I've said. Recognize what triggered the binge. Maybe you're sad, bored. We're going back to tools that you already have, but I'm sort of giving you tips for when it happens, what to do when it happens, based on what you already know can help. Okay, after a binge, here is what to do. Message me, send me a voice note, because I'm here to help you, and I want you to send me a voice note saying whatever you're feeling like saying, honestly, but also how you felt, how you feel, and just whatever you feel like telling me. Avoid self-criticism. Again, be kind to yourself, and what would you say someone telling you I've just binged? And really be like very compassionate with yourself. Hydrate. Take that with a grain of salt. Just because it might make you feel sick to have like a lot of food in the stomach and then adding like a lot of water in there. So you will feel thirsty just because of the extra sugar and salt, but it might make you sick, so you can drink, but don't drink too much. Get moving, honestly, going for a walk. And it's not in the way of, oh, I want to go for a walk because I want to burn calories because I've eaten so much. It's more like stabilizing your blood sugar levels, improving your mood, and sort of feeling better in your body, because it's very uncomfortable in terms of body to do that. So it can help. Focus on healthy eating is an obvious one. Don't skip your next meal or restrict food to make up for it. There is nothing to make up for. Just focus on nourishing your body. Your body perhaps needs more food, right? So balanced meal with protein, healthy fat, fibers, carbs. This will again help stabilize your blood sugar, curb the cravings, because as I've said, binging do increase your hunger. So if you make sure that you have something that is filling, it's going to sort of help lower that hunger as well. Obviously, reflect on what just happened. Journal about it. Film yourself if you don't want to write. Just to identify the triggers and what you can do best time. You should have all the prompts you will ever need in there. Practice mindfulness, as always, meditation, deep breathing, just to reconnect in the moment, within your body, calm your mind, and reduce the emotional charge after a binge, because it can be like very difficult to... I've had some people on Instagram saying like, oh my god, I've just binged, and feeling really, really bad about it. And honestly, just cry it out. Sometimes they can be also like a thing, but it is very hard to come back to yourself and be like, oh my god, I've done this again. So yeah, practice that. Revisit your goal. Remember why, not just the weight loss, but also the healing your relationship. And remember that one binge never define your entire journey. And take care of your body. I want to say like rest. Don't necessarily lie down. Like don't go. I know that it usually happen at night and you might go to bed, but it might make you feel sick. Like I could not lay down right after a binge, so maybe, right? But give your body time to process the food without over exercising or restricting. Okay, I've talked a little bit about the science of waiting, but here you have it in writing. Basically, it helps with delayed gratification, right? I'm sure you've heard, I don't know if I talk about it here, of the marshmallow experiment, which might not be here, it might be in another one. But when you give, like, they told so researcher had like a lot of kids to sort of test, and we're like, do you want one marshmallow now or like two, like in 10 minutes? And he would, the kid would sit down and he would have the marshmallow in front of him, and the researcher would leave and they would come back. Either the kid had eaten the one marshmallow or he would not, and therefore he would get two, right? So that's delayed gratification. And you can teach yourself to be better at that. It really helps, like when you tell yourself to wait, right? It helps strengthen the prefrontal cortex, as I've said, and that's the area, again, responsible for decision making and impulse control. Therefore, you just get better and better at resisting the immediate impulse to binge and making better long-term choice, and making it easier to choose the no binge path. Yeah, neuroplasticity, your brain has the ability to rewire and form new neural pathways, and just through repetitive behaviors, even if at first it's not perfect, it just needs repetition, not perfection. So, the more you practice waiting during a craving, the more you will build that self-control, and you'll reduce the resilience and immediate gratification that would constitute the binge, right? So over time, waiting will become easier and easier. And the reward system, as I said, when you do that, when you delay gratification, it is going to activate the reward system's part of the brain, and that will build self-regulation and reinforce not giving in to the impulse. And yeah, so the more you wait, even if it's 2 or 5 minutes at first, you rewire your brain, and you will get better at handling the cravings. Phase 4, lock in a binge-free life. Okay, I don't know why I scattered it that much, but once you've lost the weight, once you do the reverse dieting phase, so there is a lot going on. And I mean, obviously, again, if you want help, please, I have so much more, and it will be easier. Lose the weight, reverse dieting phase, and then you stop tracking. But I know a lot of you are like, oh my God, I don't know if I can trust myself. That's when you learn to eat like it's safe. You understand why you binged, why you might binge later, what to do if you feel like binging. So now let's learn to eat like it's safe. And yeah, let's watch it. Right, module 3 is all about learning to eat like it is safe. So we are building on the last module, which was all about scarcity, and we're really shifting from survival to trust. And you've been taught to fear getting it wrong and overeating and not being perfect. So we're going to learn how to trust yourself again. Oops. Okay, let's dive into why safety matters. I've hinted at that in the previous module. When food never feels safe or never felt safe, eating, undereating, overeating can feel like a threat. But your body isn't broken, it just learned to protect you, however that means, based on your current situation. So eating isn't just about willpower, it is about safety. If you are in survival mode, as we've said, whether it's about restriction, food scarcity, fear of weight gain, then hunger will feel risky, not neutral, not like information from your body. So we'll talk about, how to make food and wanting food or feeling full and hungry safe. Eating without a rule book. This one because restriction trains us to eat from rules. You're not supposed to eat after 6 p.m. You have to eat, skip breakfast. Why would you have a snack? Recovery teaches us to eat from reconnection. You don't need to earn food, to wait for a specific time, to hit a perfect macro split, to deserve nourishment. You don't need to be perfect. Actually, quite the opposite. It's about flexibility and trusting yourself. So the question doesn't, it shifts from, did I do this perfectly? Did I eat like I was supposed to did I give my body what it needed to do? Let's dive into what does eating enough actually feel like, because a lot of you, and that used to be me at first, I couldn't trust my hunger. I mean, I just knew that trusting my hunger meant overeating and meant eating more than what my body, needed. Let's start with why. Years of dieting obviously teaches you to override hunger. Hunger equals bad, fullness equals failure. Therefore, there is really this, emotional attachment to too much, enough, too little. because too little feel, oh, I'm eating like too little, I'm being skinny, I'm being so good, and too much is like, oh my god, I've ruined it, I'm so gross and whatever. This isn't your fault. Again, it is very much your body protecting you, and your healing means learning to listen again to your body as it regulates with you. So many of us don't really know what feeling like, what enough feels like in terms of food without over restricting or overeating. So let me give you, my understanding of enough. It's basically when you feel satisfied, you don't need more food, you've had enough, and you don't feel uncomfortable because you've had too much. So it's very about being neutral and also letting yourself be imperfect with it and second guessing yourself, especially at first, because some days it will feel like too much, some days it will feel like too little, but that's okay. What matters is, and that's something that I've noticed at first when I was just like tracking at maintenance, and I would track afterwards to figure out where I was at. And I realized that some days I was really high, and for example, those were my workout days, and those were days that I hadn't necessarily slept enough. And the next day I would eat less without wanting to eat less. Some days I wouldn't, right? Some days I would still be at maintenance, or even like, again, like when I was just tracking without actually trying to be at maintenance, by the way, that's what I meant. And I was like, that's just my body eating someday, like let's say, I'm going to say random numbers again, 2,500 calories, and then the next day 1,700. And this is like me calculating while tracking after the meal without judgment, just to see how my body works and to see how much it fluctuates in terms of hunger. So yeah, someday and that's just to show you how normal it is and how it's okay to not eat the same thing every day. It's okay to sometimes eat too much. It's okay to sometimes eat too little. It's fine. Yeah, you really want to approach this with curiosity over control and ask yourself, what would it feel like to respond to hunger with that instead of criticism? And then do exactly that. What would it look like? Because it might look different for everyone. I'm a numbers girl, so my way of being curious was to track it, but it might not be the same thing for you. So hunger and fullness, they really aren't moral. They're supposed to be neutral. As I said, it's just signals, it's just information. It's not a danger, it's not, a problem, it's not judgment. So yeah, you learning how to fix that and how to look at that in this way will help you break free from the binge restrict spiral. Another really important note, it is okay to feel a little hungry. For example, right now it's almost 12 p.m. and I have to wait for my dad to come back home because we want to have lunch together. But I'm a little hungry and I have to be okay with that. It's fine. It's okay to be a little hungry. This is just information. It doesn't mean, oh my god, I'm starving. Oh my god, I need to binge. I need to have as much food as possible. After healing from restriction, it is common to fear hunger like it's a threat. Like it's a failure, like it's a threat, like, oh my god, I'm feeling hungry, I might binge. Or, oh my god, I'm a failure, I shouldn't feel hungry, I've eaten so much. Or whatever else it might mean for you, right? Ask yourself, what does it mean for you to be hungry? It's not always urgent. Right now, I am very much fine. Like, my body is not going to die. And, even if I have to wait, hopefully not, even if I have to wait an extra hour for him to come back, it's okay. I can respond to it calmly. And it doesn't mean that I'm about to binge. It doesn't mean that I've messed up my day. It doesn't mean that I have to eat ASAP. It doesn't mean that I have to panic. It doesn't mean anything. It's just my body telling me, well, food would be nice whenever you have time at some point soon enough. And this is just a signal. I can respond when I'm ready. I'm safe. So hunger is not a problem to solve. It's just a signal. I really need that to be imprinted in your brain. When you eating when you're hungry doesn't have to make you feel bad, or not eating when you're hungry doesn't have to make you feel bad. I am not denying my body anything right now. It is fine. It's not because I'm hungry that I need to act on it immediately. It's being okay with being full, with being hungry. It's really being okay with your body feeling its thing. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that your body's doing its thing. Fullness is not a failure. I'm not going to repeat that. It's just, oh no, it's the other way. Fullness is not a threat. It's not a mistake. It's just feedback. Even if you feel a little bit overly full, especially at first, it will happen. After restriction, it can feel overwhelming. You're going to feel like tightness, maybe heat, because your body's gonna convert, the food to heat, even panic, like, oh my god, I've ruined everything. No, it's fine. It's just like you haven't done anything wrong, and maybe you will have a smaller snack, or maybe you won't feel as hungry, or maybe you will have more energy and, fidget a bit more. It is okay. Your body will recalibrate regardless. Fullness is just a signal that you met your need, even a little bit more. Yeah, the fear of getting it wrong. This is I think you can tell that I'm an all or nothing, or I use recovering all or nothing, perfectionist type of person, like type A, just because I talk so much about like perfectionism and the fear of getting it wrong. If I don't get this right, I failed, I'll spiral again. If I eat a bit too much, I failed, I'll spiral again. If I let myself be hungry, I failed. If, I don't eat these amount of meals, if I eat more, I failed. No, it's fine. The perfectionism voice isn't keeping you safe, it is keeping you stuck. Plus, if you say that, if you keep repeating to yourself, if I don't get this right, I failed, so I'll binge, guess what will happen? So, limiting beliefs, again, you know the drill by now. I repeat myself enough, hopefully. You can't heal your relationship with food by following the same rigid logic that broke it, or that is trying to break it. So practice giving yourself credit for trying, not just for the outcome, for the input of trying to heal. Have we seen that already? I think we have, but I wanted to repeat it so you understand what happens when you eat the food that you used to fear. Carbs, glycogen store, muscle, brain as well, and hold on to water. Sugar. Actually, restriction isn't about, the fat and the sugar doesn't mess with your hormones. Restriction does. I'll binge if I eat carbs. No, binge happens because you're restricting yourself, not because you're eating carbs. The carbs don't automatically trigger binges for most people. Therefore, it's the restriction. Perfectionism again in disguise. It can sound like I shouldn't be this hungry again. I've just eaten. What's going on? I will ruin it if I eat again, or if I eat that. I need to eat the same every day, or if I eat intuitively, I lose control. Ask again, what is the most generous, loving, caring thing I could do for myself right now? Sometimes it's eating. Sometimes, like I do now, for example, it's like I don't need to eat. Like I have tea if I really want. I don't need to eat, and that's okay. I'm allowed to be hungry, and yeah, it's just being okay with like how your body, with what your body's telling you, and realizing that you can just feel it and then be like, how could I answer it with the most love and care? Eating for enjoyment is healing. Enjoying the food that you eat, even if it's a donut, doesn't mean lack of discipline. It's part of making eating sustainable. When you slow down, when you chew, when you enjoy the taste, when you let the pleasure in, your brain would register that safety. As I've said, you have to make your brain feel safe if you want to stop binging. So you have to realize it's not indulging. You're just learning how to eat with presence, how to eat everything you love, how to fuel your body, how to, honor your cravings, all of that. A gentle reminder, healing is messy. It is normal to second guess, to overdo it, to feel stuck, especially at first. You will ask yourself so much question. It is normal. It will sort of become more and more automatic the more you go. So what matters most is, did you return to yourself with compassion? Did you stay curious and not critical? This is what will build food peace over time, not the macros that we've set later on, not the meal plan. It's your softness, and it's really the will to to thrive basically and to heal. In that little Notion thing again down below, you will have an audio library of like not every, because my clients have way more than that. I've got like 30, 40 audios based on the emotions or like events that happened, like just like what to actually do. For example, I don't know why it says 0. If you're here right, there you go. So it's about like 2 minutes, and it just walks you through what to do, what to think, and just I don't know the word, not making it as bad as it seems, because it's never as bad as it seems. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Getting in shape and healing your relationship with food is one of the most powerful things you can do, not just for this summer, but like for life. So again, if you want me to personally coach you through the entire process, from binge recovery to fat loss, we'll talk about nutrition, workout, staying consistent, and then maintaining the weight and, not gaining the weight back and being binge free and healing. and not having to fear losing control again around food. And you want to stop having to start over every Monday and quit and feel like you're failing, and you're watching everyone getting their shit together and actually transforming your body, and you feel like, why can't I take control over that? Why can't I stay in control when it comes to food? Then feel free. You will have this quick video explaining exactly how I work with clients, what kind of of results you can expect. I think it's a bit more than 10 minutes, but no fluff, no bullshit, just the full picture so you can decide. And follow me on Instagram, because I share so much more of the day to day. And that was it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you need help, just book a free call with me below. I'll just see if and how I can help you. And if I can, they've all done it. I've done it myself. So why not you? And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.